becoming infinitely stronger starting from Marvel. Hey, fanfic family. So glad to see you here again to continue this incredible adventure. As always, kindly remember, this story is 100% fiction, so don't go looking for dimensional portals in your closet. All rights to this fantastic novel belong to the original author. We're just your humble narrators of epic tales. Are you enjoying the fanfic? Show it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and dropping us a like. And if you're impatient for more exclusive content, our Patreon is your happy place. Chapter 276 Disorder of Good and Evil. Magneto, Professor X, and other mutants from the mutant universe received a summons and arrived at the White House, led by Quicksilver. Looking at the young man seated on the golden throne, Apocalypse bowed respectfully and asked, "Master, what brings you here? I have some business to attend to and need to leave this universe," Bai Ye said calmly, leaning back in his pure gold chair. "I probably won't be returning to this universe much in the future." This statement startled everyone present. They weren't worried about Bai Ye's safety. After seeing the Earth transformed into a square, no one on the planet dared to defy his will. What about the empire you created? Magneto was most concerned about the mutants, worried that humanity would retaliate after Bai Ye left. Moreover, Apocalypse beside him didn't seem like a good person. He might betray them before humanity even had a chance to cause trouble. "This is what I wanted to tell you all. In a few days, someone from the next universe will contact you," Bai Ye instructed. The next universe? The group was shocked. "Yes," Bai Ye nodded. "Didn't I tell you I came from another universe?" For a moment, the group was speechless. On this Earth, thanks to Bai Ye's rule, the emergence of Bai Ye's scholars was beginning. However, there were many speculations about Bai Ye's origins, but no one dared to directly ask him. Bai Ye instructed, "Anyway, in a few days, my subordinates from another universe will come to your universe. Don't resist then, or you might be treated like unincorporated monkeys and killed. At that time, everything on this Earth will be under their control, automatically incorporated into my power," Bai Ye said calmly, directly extinguishing any thoughts of resistance in Apocalypse's mind. "Leader, I want to ask you, are there mutants in another universe, and what are they treated like?" Magneto asked boldly. "Of course there are mutants. As for treatment," Bai Ye pondered for a moment before commenting, "everyone below me is equal, but my friends and acquaintances are more equal than others." Relieved by this answer, Magneto nodded. "No problem, I understand. In that case, see you again sometime." Bai Ye waved goodbye, then pressed the teleportation device on his wrist. The next moment, his figure vanished from the universe, leaving Magneto and the others speechless before the golden chair. In the main universe, Bai Ye emerged from the laboratory. Seeing Reed still engrossed in his research, Bai Ye didn't disturb him and disappeared. Meanwhile, in the chat group, following Bai Ye's instructions, Sun Wukong, after some trial and error, had figured out how to invite other members to his world. Legendary Saiyan, admin, "I've learned how to invite group members. When are you coming, Legendary Saiyan? Other friends can come too. Anyone want to come?" A group member, Legendary Saiyan, sent a cross-dimensional request to the chat group, with 0 out of 10 members. Seeing the Saiyan's message, Yu Buquan frowned, suspecting the Saiyan intended to kill all the group members to cover it up. Was he planning to use a new member as the sole member to completely conceal this history? Gentleman's Sword, currently cultivating, "I cannot go." Aside from Gentleman's Sword, the other group members were all eager to go and have some fun. Especially the naive Chen Xiao and Yang Kate, who knew Sun Wukong well. "Uncle Long, my friend asked me to go out. I'm going out for a bit." Inside the antique shop, Xiao called out somewhat guiltily to Jackie Chan, who was practicing on a wooden dummy. Thinking it was an invitation from a classmate, Jackie Chan nodded slightly and said, "Be careful, remember to come back before lunch." "I know." Xiao ran out the door, quickly replying, then walked into the alley, accepting the invitation without hesitation. In an instant, the girl disappeared into the alley. With her departure, the world's righteous energy instantly lost a significant portion, and the balance between good and evil began to crumble. The impact was immense. According to the principle of yin-yang balance in this world, if good and evil are out of balance, there are only two solutions: weaken the evil forces or strengthen the righteous forces. But things aren't that simple, because Chen Xiaoyu didn't completely leave. She would return. If, before this happens, the darkness weakens while Chen Xiaoyu returns, the weakened evil will be strengthened again. And if Chen Xiaoyu begins cultivating, everyone has a chance to cultivate 4.0, then it's foreseeable that the dark forces of the entire world might experience an epic strengthening. And thinking further, if, to deal with this dark force, Chen Xiaoyu, as the righteous one, enlists the help of experts from the chat group, will the evil side, facing overwhelming power, be completely annihilated, or will a golden age of demonic prosperity arrive? Leaving aside all the possibilities that might occur in this world, following Goku's invitation, most of the group members flooded into the Dragon Ball universe. In an instant, in a desolate mountain somewhere on Earth in the Dragon Ball world, many group members appeared under Goku's expectant gaze. Master Law, Kanaka Mishima, Tony Stark, Lin Jiayu, Yang Kate, Cheng Xiaoyu, and others appeared instantly. Hasn't the administrator arrived yet? Goku was getting impatient, seeing that Bai Ye hadn't accepted the invitation in the chat group. The next second, the group showed that Bai Ye had accepted the invitation. Then, behind Goku, a boy with long hair dancing in the wind and a calm expression appeared. Xiaoyu looked at the big brother in front of her, her eyes shining. She exclaimed in her heart, the administrator is so cool. Both his appearance and aura perfectly matched her imagination of a top-level master. When Goku turned around and saw Bai Ye, the boy's long hair dancing in the wind subconsciously reminded him of his brother Raditz. To be honest, putting aside the difference in their appearances, their temperament and hairstyles were really similar. Looking at the boy in front of him, Goku didn't feel that the guy's aura was particularly high. But a strong person can effectively conceal their aura, so his eyes immediately blazed with the excited fighting spirit of seeing their opponent. As for Bai Ye, looking at Sun Wukong, he was already pondering whether to defeat him outright from the start. Or maybe I should hold back and play with him a bit first. After all, he's the host, I should save him some face. Bai Ye made his decision after careful consideration, then looked at Sun Wukong and asked, shall we begin the battle now? It would be best if we could start the match quickly, but if you're hungry, I can treat you to a meal first. You can fight after you've eaten, Sun Wukong said with an incredibly warm smile. Chapter 277 Going All Out. I don't care, Bai Ye casually replied to Sun Wukong's words, whether it's before or after the meal, I have no problem. It's up to you to choose. The group watching exchanged glances, deciding it would be better to eat after the fight. After all, the thought of an imminent battle made it impossible to focus on eating. Then let's get ready to begin, Bai Ye said calmly, casually rolling up his white sleeves to reveal his fair wrists. Wait, are you going to set up your battlefield here? Kimishima Kana couldn't help but ask, what if you destroy this planet? Many of the other group members shared Kimishima Kana's concern, worried that the planet beneath their feet would explode during the fight. Don't worry, nothing will happen, Yang Kate, who was familiar with the Dragon Ball system, said with relief, unless they intend to destroy Earth, no matter how intense the fight, nothing will happen. As they spoke, Bai Ye and Goku had already walked 1,000 meters away, standing facing each other. The administrator is only level 9, while I'm level 10. Perhaps I shouldn't use my Saiyan form for now, Goku thought, looking at the boy who resembled his older brother. With this thought in mind, he slightly lowered his body, assuming a fighting stance with his arms in front of and behind him, his expression becoming serious. In contrast, Bai Ye remained standing upright on the ground, arms crossed, his expression calm. Under the influence of the field, his power flowed throughout his body, there was no difference in posture for generating force. The power erupting from his muscles was entirely transmitted through the field, even a touch of the hair could unleash the full force of his body, every contact a full force effort. Ha! In an instant, Goku roared, and visible white flames emerged from his body. With a terrifying aura emanating from him, the surrounding gravity seemed to shift. The surrounding rubble began to slowly levitate as Goku's aura increased, then gradually disintegrated into tiny particles. To the onlookers, the overwhelming pressure sent chills down their spines. They could sense that if the terrifying energy within Goku were to erupt unchecked, the entire Earth would cease to exist in an instant. He's been charging up for a bit too long. If he launches a surprise attack, he won't be able to fight at full strength, Bai Ye thought to himself, observing the distorted aura before him. Meanwhile, in a bustling metropolis, Vegeta, who was training in a gravity chamber at 300 times gravity, suddenly looked up, a hint of surprise flashing in his eyes. That's Kakarot's aura. Is he fighting someone? Curious, Vegeta pressed a button to restore the ambient gravity to normal, then leaped into the air, following the aura towards Goku. Not only him, but Krillin, Tian Shinhan, Piccolo, Gohan, and others also sensed the aura and used their flying techniques to rush towards the scene. At the scene, Goku, his body radiating white flames, looked at Bai Ye, who remained motionless, and solemnly reminded him, "Mr. Administrator, be careful from now on. I'll go all out, go all out." Looking at Goku, who hadn't even activated his Kaioken or Super Saiyan 1 powers, Bai Ye sighed inwardly, realizing he'd truly been underestimated. As Goku finished speaking, his body blurred into a blur, his right fist tentatively striking Bai Ye's right shoulder. Boom, the punch didn't hit anything. But the force of the blow created a deep trench in the ground. Bai Ye easily dodged it with a sideways movement. By the time Goku stopped, he was already 100 meters away, a large trench already visible. So fast, turning back, Goku looked at Bai Ye floating in the air, a serious glint in his eyes. After this initial exchange, he finally acknowledged Bai Ye's strength. Now serious, Goku no longer held back, charging towards Bai Ye again, roaring. Double Kaioken. In an instant, the white aura around him surged red, doubling his fighting power. His right fist struck Bai Ye's cheek with even greater ferocity. This time, Bai Ye didn't dodge, but instead raised his right fist to meet Goku's attack head-on. Boom! In mid-air, the earth trembled as their fists clashed. Even with their power contained, the slightest burst of force pressed a massive crater several meters deep into the ground. The surrounding rock seemed made of tofu, crumbling into dust. 5 times Kaioken. In an instant, the red aura around Goku surged violently, as if adding fuel to a fire. The next moment, it propelled his speed to another surge. But Bai Ye's movements were even faster. A pale right fist with its sleeve rolled up sank deeply into his bulging abdominal muscles. Cough! A mouthful of blood gushed from Goku's mouth, feeling as if a massive meteorite had crashed into his abdomen. His entire back arched like a shrimp under Bai Ye's fist. His muscles, strengthened by the aura, were caved in by the punch. His previously surging momentum faltered under the force of the blow. The next moment, propelled by Bai Ye's right fist, his body transformed into a shooting star, hurtling towards the mountain behind him. After the massive tremor, countless rocks flew through the air, burying Goku's body in a cloud of dust. In the distance, Vegeta's figure stopped in the sky, sensing Goku's slightly weakened aura within the mountain, his pupils dilating violently. This is impossible. Kakarot was defeated so quickly. Who is this guy? Vegeta's gaze fell on Bai Ye, just as it had with Goku before. Seeing Bai Ye reminded him of his former subordinate, Raditz. If you don't go all out, I think this match is over. Bai Ye's impatient voice carried through the area, audible to everyone around. 5 times Kaioken? That's nothing, enough to fob off a beggar. Piccolo, Gohan, and the others who arrived later relaxed slightly upon hearing this. They had thought the android crisis had arrived prematurely. It turned out to be just a sparring match. They wondered who this young man was. Boom! Almost as soon as Bai Ye finished speaking, the entire mountain shattered. Saiyan Goku in his first stage, radiating golden flames and with his golden hair standing on end, floated in mid-air. His gaze was fixed on Bai Ye, his tone cold under the influence of this stage. I understand. I apologize for my earlier disrespect. From this moment on, the battle officially begins. Chapter 278 Speed Up Saiyan. In the sky, 2 figures clashed at breakneck speed like shooting stars. The trajectories of Bai Ye and Sun Wukong's flight paths resembled complex curves, their brief exchanges of fists and feet ending in a split second. Each collision created a brief vacuum within a radius of several dozen meters. Boom, 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 boom. In the midst of the fierce battle, Sun Wukong's aura had reached its peak. His eyes burned with intense fighting spirit, yet he could sense that the person before him was like an insurmountable mountain. Just a little bit more, just a little bit more, all was just a little bit more. No matter how much his power increased, 1 time, 5 times, or 30 times, the boy before him was always just a little stronger. So far, apart from the initial punch, Sun Wukong was unscathed. But it was precisely this unscathed state that highlighted the difference between them. It was like a master chess player guiding a novice. The master adjusted his strength according to the novice's level, preventing the opponent from feeling too defeated. Looking at the boy before him, who remained calm even in the most intense phase of the battle, Goku knew that Bai Ye might not even be showing 70% of his strength at this moment. Aside from Bai Ye's fists, he couldn't even touch the hem of Bai Ye's clothes. Compared to Goku's frustration, the onlookers on the ground had different thoughts. First, there were the people in the chat group. Even though Goku was relatively weak compared to other star-level powerhouses, the 6-level difference meant that Goku was still not someone they, with their highest level below 4, could easily outmaneuver. The chat group members could only sense the intensity of the battle. Every instant, dozens of far-off locations in the sky were created by the impact of their punches. They could only feel the intensity of the battle but couldn't see the actual fighting, and could only sigh helplessly. Among them, Vegeta was the most emotionally charged. Watching Bai Ye fight back and forth with Goku in his Super Saiyan form, while he himself couldn't even transform into Super Saiyan 1, intense anger and resentment began to surge within Vegeta. Why? I'm not reconciled. I trained harder than Goku, I used 300 times the gravity he used, 100 times harder, yet I still can't become a Super Saiyan. Watching someone casually appear and fight Goku to a standstill, his fists clenched tightly. Fueled by intense resentment, anger, and jealousy, Krillin, Piccolo, and the others nearby had their pupils contract sharply. A terrifying aura erupted from Vegeta, turning his once jet black hair golden. Thus, spurred on by Byakuya and Goku, his long and arduous training finally allowed him to enter the new stage of Super Saiyan. Krillin stared in shock at Vegeta beside him. Vegeta's become a Super Saiyan 2, Piccolo, Gohan, Tien Shinhan, and the others felt a chill run down their spines, their eyes filled with wariness. This is the Super Saiyan. Such terrifying power, feeling his ki increased dozens of times, immense confidence surged within Vegeta. Simply put, he felt he was finally capable again. I'm definitely stronger than Kakarot now. Watching the two locked in fierce combat in the sky, Vegeta suddenly flew towards them. Has Vegeta become a Saiyan 2? Goku, who was fighting Bai Ye, sensed a nearby ki and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. The next second, in the brief moment between Bai Ye and Goku's punches, a fist wearing a white glove suddenly struck out, sending Goku flying. Watching Goku fly backward under his fist, a hint of satisfaction flashed in Vegeta's eyes. He had finally overpowered this inferior warrior. With a satisfied expression, he said smugly to Kakarot, "Kakarot, I'm definitely stronger now. I can also become a Super Saiyan." Before he could finish speaking, a cold voice rang out from the side. "Get out of the way," Bai Ye said, swinging his right foot sharply and slamming it into Vegeta's left arm. With a deafening roar, he sent him flying. Silence, everyone stared blankly at the abruptly stopped battle, their minds frozen in shock. Watching Vegeta, now in Super Saiyan form, being powerfully kicked away, Goku was now completely fired up. Although this was just a routine sparring match, and the difference in skill between him and Bai Ye was already apparent, he was still going all out. The next second, his hands slightly clasped together at his sides, a blinding blue light suddenly blazing from his palms. Goku took a deep breath, a pale white aura slowly inhaling from the corner of his mouth, and shouted, "Ka. Miha. Me, is he getting serious?" Bai Ye's expression hardened as he watched the terrifying energy surge from his opponent's palm. The so-called clashes of fists and feet were merely the prelude to the battle. The real powerhouse was the energy beam. A terrifying energy, enough to destroy a star, condensed and compressed from Goku's palm. But this was still too slow. If Bai Ye were to get serious, Goku wouldn't even have the chance to gather his energy. "Fine, I said we'd spar head-on, so I'll just play around with you," Bai Ye chuckled helplessly, unleashing all the power stored in his illusory space, causing his physical strength in the real world to surge 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. In the blink of an eye, a serious glint flashed in Bai Ye's eyes as he returned to his peak state. "Ha!" With a final roar, Goku's arms thrust forward, unleashing a Kamehameha wave as thick as a bucket from his palms, surging towards Bai Ye. Facing such an energy pillar, Bai Ye, having pushed his body to its peak, clenched his right fist and then, without hesitation, struck down. Water stream rock smashing fist. In an instant, in the world of One Punch Man, the concept of martial arts, transcending the rules of physics, was unleashed by Bai Ye. This concept transcended pure technique, reaching the realm of rules, where a fraction of power could be multiplied into 100, 1,000, or even 10,000 parts for use. The power, enough to pulverize a planet, didn't leak out at all. Instead, it transformed into a long, dragon-like stream of energy that surged straight towards the Kamehameha. Boom! A sound like a star collapsing echoed as the terrifying energy wave and the energy clashed, both sides frantically consuming each other. The overflowing energy subsided under Bai Ye's protective aura, and Bai Ye's physique actually increased as a result. Finally, Goku's energy wave was exhausted first, and only then did he realize the danger as he saw the remaining energy. Oh no, if I use instant transmission to dodge, Earth will, Goku, below, cried out inwardly. But the next moment, a slightly slender figure blocked his path, slashing fiercely at the remaining energy wave, directly dispersing it. The surging airflow exploded in the air, directly scattering the clouds for thousands of kilometers around. Looking at the boy who had appeared before him without him noticing, Goku knew clearly in his heart, the battle was over. Chapter 279 Sun Wukong and his animal friends. He lost, undeniably lost. Looking at the cloudless sky and Bai Ye calmly turning around to ask if he wanted to continue fighting, Son Goku cancelled his Super Saiyan transformation, scratching the back of his head and sighing, "Looks like the gap between me and the administrator is still huge. I feel a bit hungry, let's go eat." "Okay," Bai Ye nodded slightly, his surging power slowly receding and storing in his ethereal space. After suppressing his normal combat strength, he and Son Goku landed together in front of the group members. "So, who won?" Xiaoyu quickly approached, asking curiously. Because the battles were so frequent, the group members couldn't even get the chance to watch. Now that they saw Bai Ye and Bai Yu return without any obvious injuries, they wanted to know the result. "Haha, I completely lost to the administrator," Goku said without any resentment. "The chat group's levels seem fake. I don't know why the administrator is only level 9, even though he seems much stronger than me." These words immediately shocked everyone in the chat group. Seeing Bai Ye calmly pull back his rolled-up sleeves, the chattering crowd was astonished. They hadn't expected him to actually win. The difference between level 9 and level 10 was more than 10,000 times, yet he had defeated him effortlessly and without any consequences. In the distance, Vegeta emerged from the deep pit, clutching his left arm, which Bai Ye had kicked off, his eyes filled with disbelief. "How is this possible? How is this possible?" Vegeta trembled all over, looking at the boy in the distance. "I've already become a Super Saiyan, yet this guy is even stronger than Kakarot." Filled with immense humiliation, his body transformed into blur as he flew towards Goku. "Kakarot, who is this guy?" Vegeta pointed at Bai Ye and asked. Gohan and the others also came up, curiously looking at the group members surrounding Goku. After all, they were all comrades who knew each other well, and they were basically familiar with Goku's social circle. Where did all these friends come from? The group members were equally surprised. These animal friends of Goku were still quite strange to their otherwise normal-looking group members. Tien Shinhan with 3 eyes, Krillin without a nose, Piccolo from Namek, none of them looked human. "Oh, them? They're my group members from other worlds visiting me," Goku said without any pretense. Other worlds, XN. For a moment, everyone was shocked. Did they come back from the future in a time machine like Trunks? Krillin, without a nose, asked. "No, they came from another world," Goku explained, revealing everything about the chat group. Yankete was shocked by Goku's explanation and wanted to stop him. How could he just tell outsiders such things? But seeing that the chat group members didn't stop him, the newbie could only choose to endure it. As for why the group members didn't stop him, it was because the chat group itself wasn't their biggest advantage. For them, the biggest advantage was, of course, Bai Ye standing to the side. Without Bai Ye and everyone has skill 4.0, they would probably still be working under the omniscient and omnipotent sage. Using this interdimensional chat group purely as a communication tool would be a complete waste. With Goku's explanation, these comrades understood the identities of these people. They really were from another world. "Let's get to know each other." Goku introduced his animal friends to the group members. He pointed to the noseless dwarf. "This is Krillin." Then he pointed to the 3-eyed tall man and the child with skin whiter than a zombie. "This is Tien Shinhan and Chiaotzu. This is Piccolo. This is Vegeta and Yamcha." With Goku's introductions, the two sides nodded to each other. Under the pure crushing power, even Vegeta had to swallow his pride. After all, he was arrogant, but not blind. He could see Bai Ye's undeniable overwhelming power. If it weren't for this ability, he would have been killed long ago while working for Frieza. By the way, Goku asked Bai Ye, "Mr. Administrator, it seemed like you weren't using your full strength just now. How much of your power did you use?" The simple question immediately drew everyone's attention. To defeat Super Saiyan 1 Goku, Wasn't what he showed just now his full strength? Everyone was incredulous. A level 9 fighting a level 10 without using full strength was terrifying. Bai Ye pondered Goku's question, how much of your strength? Are you talking about just now or now? Just now? Now? Bai Ye's words confused everyone. What was the difference? Less than 10 minutes had passed since the battle began. Goku directly asked, Mr. Administrator, what's the difference between just now and now? Just now, I used about 80% of my power. Now, about 3.7%, Bai Ye simply assessed. For Bai Ye, this battle had been quite tiring. He was afraid that he would level up to level 10 while fighting, and then he wouldn't get the thrill of winning against a higher level. Even with suppression, Bai Ye had still improved from the initial level 9 to the mid-level 9. His brief words sent shockwaves through everyone present. 3.7%? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Vegeta couldn't believe it. How could the difference be so huge? But the other Dragon Ball warriors, besides being shocked, felt mostly relieved. Great, Krillin exclaimed excitedly, with Mr. Bai Ye here, we'll definitely have no problem facing the androids, the android saga. I almost forgot about it. Yankete clapped his hands and said, Mr. Goku, you absolutely must carry that special heart medication with you from now on. Oh, how do you know so much about it? Goku asked, wondering if you had remembered it wrong. Because I can see the future, Yankete said seriously. I've already seen that you'll almost die because you forgot to take your medicine, leading to a series of serious problems. Fortune telling, is it like the power of a witch doctor? Krillin looked at Goku. Almost die because you forgot to take your medicine? That certainly seems like something Goku would do, and don't be careless because of a mere android, because a series of crises will erupt on Earth soon, Yankete revealed, from Cell to BUU and finally the god of destruction. Even if you reach the level of Super Saiyan 3, you will have a hard time resisting them. Chapter 280 Carnival Party. Super Saiyan 3, the Dragon Ball warriors all exclaimed in shock. What kind of level was this? This is the Saiyan path to becoming stronger, from Super Saiyan 1 all the way to 3. I'm not sure if it will become Super Saiyan 4 or Super Saiyan God, Yankete said. He wasn't sure either whether the future history of this world would go towards GT or Dragon Ball Super. Yankete's words immediately ignited Goku's fighting spirit. So there are so many levels of Saiyan power, and there are still many opponents waiting for us. As he said this, his eyes burned with fierce fighting spirit. Hey, didn't we say we were going to eat? Bai Ye said impatiently from the side. Super Saiyan 1 and Super Saiyan God were meaningless to him. He could get by doing a few more push-ups. Eating was more important. And that was indeed the case. Goku and the others only needed to focus on the battle, but Bai Ye had a lot to consider for his next meal. Yeah, I'm a little hungry. Everyone, come with me to eat. Goku laughed and patted his stomach. And so, led by Goku, a grand social gathering began, bringing together Bulma, Launch, Chi-Chi, and others. Inside Bulma's enormous manor villa, all the Dragon Ball heroes and members gathered. Even Spider-Gwen, who had come after hearing of Bai Ye's victory, accepted the invitation. As for the Uchiha, they were too busy training in the main god space to attend. Wow, what a handsome young man, a gushing voice, tinged with infatuation, rang out from the side. It wasn't Bulma speaking, but her mother, Mrs. Briefs, a blonde woman. Looking at Bai Ye, she quickly approached, her eyes shining, and asked, "What's your name, sir? Which school are you attending? What are your plans for the future? Do you intend to work for Capsule Corporation?" Bai Ye casually replied, "My name is Bai Ye. I haven't even graduated high school yet, and I'm already working in society. I don't have any plans for the future, I'll just see what happens." Seeing the woman about to touch his chest, Bai Ye grabbed her, and looking at her face, which showed obvious enjoyment as he held her, even Bai Ye found it hard to resist. "Madam, your husband is right here. I hope you can be a little more respectful," Bai Ye reminded him, but her husband just smiled and didn't seem to mind at all. What a green-haired turtle, Bai Ye thought to himself. He couldn't bring himself to eat this kind of old-fashioned woman. Who knew how chaotic her private life was? He wasn't someone who would eat just anything. Simply put, although Bai Ye himself liked to have casual sex, he didn't want his casual sex partners to have had casual sex with other people. He gently pushed the older woman in front of him away, and while she was swooning over him, Bai Ye turned and left. Vegeta, Krillin, and the others were surrounding Yankete, asking about the future and Super Saiyans. Goku, on the other hand, completely ignored the fact that he might almost die of a heart attack from neglecting his future, and started gnawing on a piece of meat. Bai Ye walked over to him, picked up his knife and fork, and cut off a small piece as if slicing tofu, then put it in his mouth to taste. He no longer needed to eat, he was just tasting. When will some food-themed anime characters like Master Chef Ninja join the group? A thought suddenly crossed Bai Ye's mind. He was quite curious about the allure of drugs laced in food. At this moment, the surrounding atmosphere was slightly noisy, with a group of people who had just met a day ago gathering together, shouting and drinking for each other's company. Bai Ye stood quietly to the side, his mouth never stopping, enjoying the various foods in peace. Mr. Bai, old Luo would like to offer you a toast. Master Luo walked up and said with a hearty laugh. In his Ip Man universe, a level 2 cultivator was practically a human superhero, earning him countless respects, something that would have been impossible before, so he came up with a glass to express his gratitude. Bai Ye nodded slightly, skipping over the alcoholic beverages, and picked out one of the drinks he had just tasted, poured himself a glass, and raised it in return. A toast to you too. He took a small sip, noticing Xiaoyu not far away, who was curious and wanted to drink, influenced by the environment. Bai Ye reluctantly stepped forward and gently took the glass from her hand. Mr. Bai Ye, seeing Bai Ye snatch the drink, Xiaoyu was a little nervous. The next moment, a drink was shoved into her hand. Little kids should drink drinks like me. When you grow up, no one will care about you anymore, I know. Xiaoyu nodded, not showing any dissatisfaction at the lecture, and obediently held the drink in her hand. After taking a sip, she looked at Bai Ye expectantly and said, then, Mr. Bai Ye, I want to become your apprentice and learn kung fu from you, like when we were fighting just now. Is that okay? In her opinion, the fight just now was so cool. Although it was very impolite, it was indeed many times more powerful than Uncle Long's martial arts. Becoming my apprentice is out of the question. If you want to practice martial arts, just look at the file I posted in the group. Bai Ye stood up and said. But I don't quite understand it. Xiaoyu's cheeks flushed slightly, and she said shyly. For a little girl of a few years old, it was indeed difficult for her to just memorize the manual without being taught. Bai Ye was speechless at her words, so he had no choice but to squat down and gently place his palm on Xiaoyu's head. Look into my eyes, Bai Ye said softly. Xiaoyu obediently looked back, and as their eyes met, a wealth of information entered her consciousness through illusion. This principle was similar to the world modulation scheme he used on the entire Earth in the DC universe. Xiaoyu's memories were added by Bai Ye's illusion, and a vast amount of knowledge rose from her mind. In just a slight moment of surprise, Xiaoyu felt a large amount of knowledge emerge from her mind. Content that she had only glanced at before was now directly memorized and understood. Understand now? Just practice hard from now on. Bai Ye gently patted her head, and the next moment he felt his arm being grabbed. Mr. Bai Ye, can you use this trick again? Xiaoyu's eyes sparkled, and she asked greedily, can you also transfer knowledge of math, physics, and biology to me? Please. Looking at this child with bright eyes, Bai Ye inexplicably thought of himself when he was a child, when he also seemed to have a headache from studying. Bai Ye couldn't help but sigh. Don't push your luck, little sister. This is the only time. Xiaoyu nodded excitedly. But once you reach level 2 and have a photographic memory, you'll have to learn on your own from now on. As Bai Ye spoke, he once again instilled knowledge such as biology, physics, and history into her mind. When you get back, check your textbooks for any mistakes. What if the world is different and everything I taught is wrong? You'll be crying next time you take the exam, Bai Ye said somewhat naggingly, then stood up and patted Xiaoyu's head, saying, go play now, but remember not to drink like those adults. Yes, Mr. Bai Ye, Xiaoyu nodded vigorously. At this moment, Bai Ye's image in her mind was no different from that of an omniscient and omnipotent god. Chapter 281 The Primordial World and Xiaoyu teaching Kung Fu. Fight. 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 Go, Kate, Yamcha, don't lose. Inside Bulma's Manor Villa area, a large group of Dragon Ball warriors and their friends gathered around a campfire, cheering incessantly. In the very center of the crowd, Yang Kate, slightly tipsy, directly engaged in close quarters combat with the Dragon Ball warriors, sparring and testing his skills. Although the Dragon Ball warriors present were at least level 8, he could still manage to fight them hand-to-hand without using energy attacks like the Ki Blast, Wolf Fang Wind Fist, Myriad Law's Melting Palm. Both sides simultaneously roared out their signature moves, clashing against each other, the swirling hurricanes causing the campfire to shake violently. The battle fueled the excitement, pushing the gathering's fervor to its peak. Everyone was incredibly excited, shouting out the names of their favorites, except for Bai Ye, who noticed the names of the moves Yang Kate was calling out. Myriad Law's Melting Palm. This move, is it from the fantasy Xiangxia genre? Bai Ye fell into deep thought. He hadn't asked Yang Kate, the transmigrator, where his world was. Soon after, a flaw appeared, and Yang Kate realized he was in trouble. Yamcha punched him in the stomach, sending him flying out of the circle. Whoa 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 whoa, excited cheers erupted from the Dragon Ball warrior's side. Bai Ye appeared a step ahead of Yang Kate, stopping him in his tracks. Thank you for your help, boss, Yang Kate said gratefully. It's nothing. I just wanted to ask, where did you transmigrate to? Judging by your strength, it's from the fantasy world, right? Bai Ye asked proactively. My world, Yang Kate smiled wryly. The primordial world, you understand it to be, the primordial world. A strange light appeared in Bai Ye's eyes. Yes, although I am merely the abbot of a minor Taoist temple, and have never even seen the faces of those legendary, named deities, I am certain that the world I inhabit is the primordial continent. The primordial world is virtually endless, no one can reach its end, nor its extremes, yet legends of sages abound throughout the continent. Countless nations and powers exist, each with a territory larger than Earth. A mortal could not traverse a single country in a lifetime, but in every nation, Taoist temples and Buddhist shrines worship the 3 pure ones and the 2 Buddhas, while ancestral temples venerate the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. If asked why, no one can explain it clearly. Only saying that it has been so since ancient times, but this ancient must be traced back at least tens of thousands of years. At the beginning of my transmigration, I attempted astronomical calculations, but the celestial rules of this world are completely chaotic, no pattern can be found. In the end, I could only conclude that even if the entire primordial continent has an end, based on its curvature, it is at least the size of a galaxy. Yang Kate's words made Bai Ye even happier. It seemed another great source of amusement had emerged, and he could take a trip there sometime in the future. A prehistoric continent at least the size of a galaxy, it must be incredibly fun. With this thought in mind, Bai Ye ate his food non-stop while watching the group of enthusiastic guys go crazy. Late at night, the entire venue was a mess. Bai Ye first told Xiaoyu to go back and rest, not to fool around with the adults. After watching the girl press the return button and disappear, Bai Ye waved goodbye to everyone and pressed the return button as well. In the Jackie Chan Adventures world, the girl's body suddenly appeared in the alley. Looking at the dim sky, she felt a sense of foreboding. Oh no, I've been playing over there for too long and missed lunch. Touching her full stomach, the girl felt she didn't want to eat dinner either. With an ease, Xiaoyu walked out of the alley, turned a corner, and returned to the antique shop. When they opened the door, they found the once deserted antique shop now filled with people besides Jackie Chan and True Sheriff Black, Bull Warrior, Snake. What are you all doing here? Jade exclaimed in surprise. The familiar voices immediately drew everyone's attention to her. Jade? Where have you been? You said you'd be back by lunchtime. We've been looking for you for ages, and I've even notified your mother, Jackie Chan said, his eyes bloodshot and his tone stern. Mom and the others know too, it's just lunchtime, Jade instinctively retorted. You've been missing for 3 days. We thought you'd been kidnapped by the Black Hand Gang, and Jackie Chan even went to them to try and rescue you, True said innocently from the side. 3 days, Jade instinctively protested. How could that be? I remember I've only been gone for less than 5 hours. Less than 5 hours. The people present exchanged glances, their eyes filled with seriousness. Those present were arguably the most experienced with the supernatural in the world, and they readily accepted Jade's explanation. I'm serious, I was only gone for 5 hours, I'm not lying, you have to believe me, Xiaoyu said urgently. Jackie Chan squatted down to reassure her, of course we believe you, but 3 days have indeed passed here. Now I need you to tell us everything that happened after you left, okay? Looking at Jackie Chan and the others, Xiaoyu hesitated for a moment before recounting what had just happened. I went to another world to watch 2 masters fight, and then we had a gathering. Afterwards, one of the older brothers even taught me some really powerful kung fu. As Xiaoyu explained, everyone present was shocked. Meanwhile, in the small cabin at the Black Hand Gang headquarters, Valmont and the others were covered in wounds, some even with broken bones and bandages on their hands. That damn Jackie Chan, saying that little girl was someone we captured, and then he came over and caused a scene. Valmont slammed his fist on the table angrily, his tone fierce. Then, looking at his bruised and battered members, he said, "What happened to you guys today? You all got beaten up like this by Jackie Chan, and you performed so poorly. He's practically a Superman," Lasso said, puzzled. "But we really don't seem to be in good shape today," Lasso explained. "I had an upset stomach yesterday, and my legs are still weak." Joe shook his head. "You know, I stayed up all night yesterday. I didn't sleep at all." Looking at his subordinates, each with their own excuses for their poor condition, Valen gritted his teeth in anger. Suddenly, Joe shook his head in surprise. "Hey, I feel much more refreshed. My wounds don't hurt as much either," Lasso said, somewhat surprised. Just as the gangsters were celebrating, Xiaoyu successfully recounted her fantastical experience to them. "Because only I can see that chat group, there's no way to prove it." Xiaoyu thought for a moment and said, "How about I teach you Kung Fu?" Chapter 282. The villain Bullseye wants to be a good guy. In the Marvel Universe, Bai Ye chooses to return, only to see Jade recounting her experiences in the chat group. Staircase Warrior, "I got home and realized several days had passed. My worried family found out, so I told them about my experiences in the chat group. It should be okay, right?" Staircase Warrior, "Also, I wanted to teach Kung Fu to Uncle Long and the others. Is that alright?" Deep Blue, "It's fine, just be careful." Deep Blue, "Oh, and I forgot to mention about time. After the chat group reaches level 4, the flow of time is different in each world. Your world might flow 10 times faster than Goku's world." Deep Blue, "One more thing, it's my birthday in a few days. I'd like you all to come over. Anyone who wants to come is welcome." With a wave of his hand, Bai Ye closed the chat group and turned his gaze back to reality. His eyes swept across the city through the blinds. People on the streets and alleys were now wearing special collars around their necks. After a month in the X-Men world, the surveillance program had been completed globally, and everyone was wearing a collar. From now on, wherever the signal is located, anyone wearing the collar will be under AI surveillance. Anyone who breaks the law will be apprehended instantly and killed by a miniature bomb inside the collar. Currently, as long as the body is fresh, less than half a day old, and at least 20% of vital tissue remains, it can be revived. The body will be retrieved, taken to hospital, and rehabilitated by superhumans with healing abilities. Then, a single transfer of energy will transform the body into a completely new person, who will be transferred to prison for 5 to 10 years. During this time, the Empire's generous welfare benefits will be gone. All supplies will be cut off within the cold stone walls, and the individual will be kept in solitary confinement, enduring hunger and loneliness until release. Of course, people of Stark's caliber are immune to surveillance and don't even wear collars. Instead, they wear a communication wristband to signify their high status. Although his birthday is still about 2 weeks away, the entire planet is already bustling with activity. Various streamers and banners are hung all over the world. Bai Ye was somewhat aware of his people's filial piety. It seemed they wanted to put on a grand show, so he let them be. With Bai Ye's tacit approval without explicit objection, most of the galaxy was engulfed in war. To combat the ignorant aliens, military deployment was pushed to its limits, with almost every soldier independently occupying a resource planet. Later, even the army was insufficient, and conscripts were drawn from prisons. Tens of thousands of alien forces were ruthlessly conquered by Bai Ye's Empire's army. To counter the counterattacks of the remaining alien forces, the 5 Infinity Stones were requisitioned dozens of times every day for this war sweeping the galaxy. Every day was filled with fighting and death, primarily among aliens. On Earth's radio stations, the daily reports were, "Alien planet at coordinates XX has just been conquered. Alien forces at coordinates XX are preparing a counterattack but have been repelled." After conquering one planet, the army would leave one person behind to guard it before rushing off to the next. Even if a few soldiers in Bai Ye's army occasionally died, it wasn't a big deal, because resurrection wasn't a problem. He only needed to use the Time Stone and the Space Stone to reach the location of the deceased soldiers, and then they could be resurrected. Under these circumstances, they still hadn't successfully conquered the Milky Way. Because the entire Milky Way was just too damn huge. There were over 200 billion planets alone. Even if evenly distributed, each Earthling would control more than 30 planets. Even if they compromised and only occupied the planets with life, it was still beyond their reach. President, the targets you gave me are simply impossible to meet. I feel like vomiting just looking at corpses, Bullseye complained with a bitter face as he listened to his subordinates' reports in the White House. The former supervillain hadn't gone mad in a long time. The game of domination, which he had initially enjoyed with great enthusiasm, had become tiresome due to the daily grind of war. He hadn't slept for 2 whole months, working non-stop every day, traversing various wormholes, conquering resource planets one by one. Whenever he felt mentally exhausted, he would urgently return to Earth to have a psychic there use their inspirational abilities to restore his will. In this state, even sudden death was a luxury, because even if you died, you could be brought back to life to serve the Empire. Feeling nauseous? It's probably because you've seen too many dead bodies. I'll have a psychic erase all your memories from this period later, Kingpin said calmly. These words immediately caused Bullseye's face to stiffen. Memory erased? Have I had my memory erased before? Kingpin replied matter-of-factly, of course. This is the 3rd time you've come to me. It seems a 3-day memory erasure won't work. Go down and collect your half-month's dose later. So, I've had similar memories erased 3 times already. Bullseye thought of his Demon Squad teammates. Many of them did seem forgetful when chatting. He had thought they were sick, but it turned out their memories had been erased. No, I'm here on sick leave. I have a serious mental illness. Bullseye panicked. This couldn't go on. He'd already had his memory erased 3 times. If this continued, he feared he'd become mentally disabled. Kingpin said nonchalantly, mental illness? Find someone with psychic abilities. If you're willing, I can even replace your personality. Then, can I have a physical illness? I can commit suicide here, torn to pieces or self-destruct and leave no trace. Resurrect me on His Majesty's birthday. Consider this period of death a vacation. How about it? Bullseye said humbly. Sigh, you know the Empire is short-staffed right now, Kingpin sighed. Although I have many subordinates, managing their food, drink, and toilet needs is simply too much to handle. Besides, His Majesty's birthday absolutely cannot be neglected. We'll talk about sick leave later. I'll give you a month's leave after Christmas. Can I switch with a superhero team? Bullseye said jealously. Why are they stuck on Earth? I saw Daredevil post a selfie with his new girlfriend in the group chat the other day. Kingpin was speechless and asked, isn't this what you guys wanted to do? Go to outer space to conquer? I regret it. I've just realized I love peace. I want to be a good person, Bullseye said seriously. If you want to be a good guy, go talk to the superhero team yourself. It's a 1-for-1 deal. If you don't go, let them conquer planets and see if they let you be a good guy then, Kingpin said impatiently. Me, go talk to those old fogies? That's like sending me to my death. Bullseye was dumbfounded. Get lost. You've been talking to me for 5 minutes already. The fastest time to conquer a resource planet is 4 minutes and 21 seconds. You've seriously neglected your duties, Kingpin said, directly telling him to get out of there. Chapter 283 Thanos. In the Marvel Universe, within the TRAPPIST star system, only 40 light-years from Earth in the Milky Way, a battle is raging. Near the planet named TRAPPIST-1b by Earth's astronomical authorities, countless ships unleash blinding lasers, bombarding a distant, suspended black sphere. Visible beams of light are frequently fired from the ships, each powerful enough to instantly obliterate a building. But all are deflected upon the black sphere, causing no damage whatsoever. Damn it, wipe out these damned Earth invaders. The speaker is a burly man, wearing a fur coat, his exposed skin a deep blue, and a unique fin-shaped headdress. When he speaks, sharp, razor-sharp teeth are visible in his mouth. He is Yondu, the leader of one of the Marauders' ships. But he's not alone. Looking around, the attacking fleet is densely packed with ships of various types. The Marauders, the Nova Corps, the Kree, the Sheer Empire, and the Skrulls have all united. As a well-known force in the galaxy and a primary target of attack, Earth has been gradually encroaching upon all their territories over the past period. While the White Knight's forces spread the gospel of freedom and democracy, these remnants of cosmic forces, indiscriminately categorizing themselves as good or evil, have united as one. These remnants of the Avengers alien force originally planned to travel through wormholes directly to Earth's home planet. Unfortunately, To ensure the peace and tranquility of the Emperor's empire, Kingpin had already deployed troops to block all wormholes leading to Earth. These extraterrestrial remnants were blocked as soon as they approached, and then began attacking the vibranium-forged outer space outpost, but to no avail. Inside the spaceship, a white Empire soldier sent a message to Earth, reporting to Earth headquarters, "The enemy not only refuses to surrender but also dares to retaliate." Received, retaliate immediately. What level is the enemy's strength assessed? Over 400 ships are surrounding us. We'll need a counterattack force of at least level 5, I understand. Let me check how many level 5 or higher standing forces Earth can currently utilize, another soldier muttered, browsing the list. Ah, Mr. Max Eisenhardt is available now. What? Eisenhardt? You mean Magneto, the first man to follow His Majesty? The soldier exclaimed in surprise. Yes, that's him. Wait a moment, I'll contact him and have him teleport over, the communicator said simply and quickly began making contact. A minute later, with a special teleportation, a flash of blue light appeared, and an old man wearing a helmet of unknown alloy and a wine-red robe appeared inside the spaceship. Mr. Magneto, I'm your fan. Seeing Magneto, the soldier was too excited to speak. But Magneto only glanced at him indifferently and did not react. In Magneto's eyes at this moment, the soldier in front of him was not even a mutant and did not deserve his special attention. Some time ago, he had asked Dr. Reed of the Earth Academy of Sciences to conduct scientific research to try to eliminate the side effects of the machine that Bai Ye used to turn humans into mutants. At that time, everyone could truly become a mutant. He said perfunctorily, "Open the hatch now." Yes, yes, the soldier nodded obsequiously. Although surrounded by spaceships and surrounded by energy cannons, he still opened the hatch without the slightest hesitation. The instant it opened, a fiery red beam of energy shot in through the hatch. The next moment, like a flame that extinguishes itself without wind, the energy dissipated automatically as soon as it approached Magneto. Gently stepping out of the hatch, terrifying energy overflowed from Magneto's body, seemingly crushing and obliterating the void of space. The extreme environment of outer space did not cause him any discomfort. Hundreds or thousands of kilometers away, his hawk-like sharp eyes locked onto the spaceships. Then, enduring the bombardment of countless energy cannons, Magneto stretched out his hands and suddenly opened them wide. Crack, 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 crack. Despite the vast distance, under Magneto's terrifying magnetic force, the spaceships disintegrated one by one in an instant, continuously disintegrating outwards. There was no suspense, no reversal. In a single glance, hundreds of spaceships in the distance were instantly reduced to fragments of alloy. Then, under Magneto's control, these alloys began to coalesce and bond together. With a deafening boom, they transformed into a massive iron sphere hundreds of meters tall, suspended in space. Having done this, his icy gaze swept over the contorted, dying bodies in space, and with a cold snort, he scooped them all up. Cold, noisy. In the frigid prison, Yondu's consciousness gradually returned, only to find countless people arguing around him. What's going on? I remember fighting Earthlings. What's happening now? Yondu opened his eyes and saw countless people talking and exchanging words in the alloy-constructed prison, and he recognized many of them. Ronan, Gamora, Star-Lord, a raccoon, the leader of the Nova Corps, a woman with similarly blue skin and a mechanically modified body. At this moment, these people were arguing incessantly, the shrill sounds vibrating his eardrums. What are you all arguing about? Where is this place? And Quill, what are you doing here? Yondu glared at Star-Lord. Good heavens, after sleeping for 8 hours, you're finally awake. Yondu stopped arguing with the people beside him, sighed in relief, and shrugged. Obviously, we've been captured by Earthlings. Why did they capture us? We're nothing they're after. Why don't they just kill me? The guards said we're some kind of characters in a movie or TV show, like the main characters and supporting characters. Star-Lord shrugged. What's all this nonsense? You were all defeated by Earthlings. Yondu noticed that several of them were injured. What else? Star-Lord pouted. But they probably thought we were too weak. They didn't even imprison us, they just put us on Earth. What? You're saying this is Earth? Yondu's eyes widened. He hadn't expected this to be their planned attack destination. Of course, we're considering causing some trouble here and capturing their emperor. What's his name again? Rocket Raccoon stepped forward and said. I advise you to play it safe. Earthlings are incredibly terrifying, a weak voice echoed from deep within the prison. drawing everyone's attention inward. Two people were locked in the innermost chamber. Yondu didn't recognize the speaker, but the other was none other than Thanos. Thanos, Yondu cried out the name. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 Earth's Evolution Forgot About Me, did it? What is he doing here? Yondu felt a chill run down his spine as he stared at the leader of the galaxy's largest power in the distance. Thanos was covered in wounds and was encased in countless vibranium-framed steel bars. These vibranium bars bound his body, and the metal surface was engraved with dense, unknown black patterns, the sealing techniques from Naruto. Before attacking Earth, Yondu and the others had tried to contact Thanos, but he hadn't replied. Now it seemed he had been imprisoned by the Earthlings. You mean that purple potato inside? He was defeated by the Earthlings too, but he's in a much worse state than us. He was in some danger, so he was locked up. Star-Lord's tone was incredibly relaxed. Even though Thanos was once the ruler of the galaxy, he was now a prisoner. Who was more noble than whom? Compared to the imprisoned Thanos, at least they could still move around. Oh, right, Yondu noticed another imprisoned man. This was the guy who had just told them to give up their plans to cause trouble. Who are you? Why are you preventing us from causing trouble? You're not from Earth, are you? Yondu noticed the guy's appearance was similar to Star-Lord's and became suspicious. I am indeed from Earth, but not from this universe, the speaker chuckled bitterly. You can call me Takuya. Yes, Takuya, the 400-year-old woman from the Spider-Man Alliance who came to cause trouble. At this moment, he was with Thanos, one of the only two prisoners with restricted freedom. Their former mechas and weapons had all been thrown into the Empire's archives. Hearing that the newcomer was from Earth, everyone present looked at him with hostility. After all, it was Earthlings who had caused their country's destruction. You're saying this because you're worried about Earthlings being harmed by us, aren't you? Rocket Raccoon said confidently. Of course not, it's just that you don't know how terrifying the Earthlings of this world are, Takuya said seriously. Whether it's a newborn baby or a 90-year-old, any random person on Earth could defeat you all. The reason we don't restrict your freedom is simply because, without spaceship armor, you're no different from a half-paralyzed person in the eyes of Earthlings, so naturally there's no need to be worried. Being called a half-paralyzed person, everyone present was furious. Each of them was somewhat famous in the universe, and no one could tolerate such ridicule. Not convinced? My spider sense can sense life within a 50-kilometer radius, Takuya said calmly. We're currently in the prison in the Indian district, as one of the most dangerous, populous, and underdeveloped areas in the region. I can sense even a newborn baby lifting a 100,000-pound boulder with one hand. I can also sense elderly people in their 70s and 80s casually kicking tens of tons of iron balls into a senior citizen soccer game. Can you do that? And what surprises me most is that within my sensing range, not a single person in the entire city has died of natural causes. Even those who are killed are instantly revived, Takuya said seriously. Humanity on this earth has entered the era of immortality. Takuya's words left everyone present stunned, wondering if they had entered a divine realm where the people of an entire nation were immortal. It was simply unbelievable. Are we in God's paradise? Star-Lord said angrily. I'm clearly an Earthling too. How come Earth's evolution forgot about me? Are gods so great? A bitter laugh came from the other side. Everyone looked, and there appeared another burly man who looked like an Earthling. He was shackled, and clearly, to the Earthlings, this guy's defense level was a notch higher than Yondu's. Hey buddy, you're an Earthling too? Star-Lord felt a sense of kinship. No, I'm a god. Asgard was once a divine kingdom, and we have an irreconcilable hatred for Earthlings. The burly man gritted his teeth. That damned white knight. We Asgard have already actively distanced ourselves from Earth, yet he still relentlessly pursues us. If it weren't for my desperate cover, the remaining embers of Asgard would probably have been extinguished by Earth. But this is already a victory. After all, we rescued our people from Earthlings. The Asgardian, as if his throat had been choked, stared wide-eyed at the outside of the prison, his jaw agape as if dislocated. Everyone looked out of the prison with confusion and curiosity. A large group of men and women, looking exactly like Earthlings, walked into the prison in shackles. Loki, Sif, Heimdall. The man called out their names one by one, watching them return from outside the prison with ashen faces. Everyone immediately understood, the so-called lone man holding off the Earthlings was nothing but a capture of his entire race. Someone thought to themselves, what kind of Asgardian god is he? Captured like prisoners by Earthlings? So shameful. How did you get captured too? The man asked curiously as the Asgardians entered. You only held off one person. There was a whole spaceship of Earthlings blocking the other side of the wormhole. Hundreds of Earthlings disembarked from that small spaceship. They shouted that they would wipe out the Asgardian remnants for His Majesty, then beat us up and captured us all. Loki burst into tears, recounting the events. As a prince, he had never received such treatment before. His body was covered in bruises. The Asgardians' cries for help resonated with everyone present, making them feel how terrifying Earthlings were. Damn it, what's there to be afraid of? So what if they're terrifying? If we really encountered them, we'd blow them up, one alien roared. Yeah, we'd blow them up, rip their appendixes out, it's just one life, the worst that can happen is death, we're not cowards. For a moment, remembering their history of persecution by Earthlings, the entire prison was filled with fervent anger and shouts. But the next moment, someone fixed a malevolent gaze on Star-Lord. You're an Earthling too, right? Why don't we just kill you first? Instantly, Star-Lord felt a cold sweat break out on his back. Pat, pat, pat. Just as he and Yondu were about to brush it off, a series of chaotic footsteps came from outside, clearly another large group of people approaching. Thinking it was another batch of prisoners entering, the aliens turned around and saw a group of people surrounding a young boy walking towards them. The Asgardian, who had been so arrogant before, now stammered as he looked at the leading youth, saying, Bye 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 ye. The moment these words were uttered, time seemed to stand still, and the entire prison fell silent. The previously arrogant prisoners, seeing the approaching youth, all fell silent. Chapter 285 Assassination of Bai Ye. Inside the villa, Bai Ye, who had been enjoying himself in the Marvel Universe for 3 or 4 days, suddenly remembered something. Not long after he traveled to another universe, some kind of Japanese Spider-Man version, supposedly made by a middle-aged woman, came looking for trouble. According to Stark, he was currently imprisoned in the Indian district. With this thought in mind, Bai Ye, resting his head on Xiao Tao's warm, smooth lap on the sofa, lazily spoke. Jarvis, connect me to the Indian district. Tell them I need to go there to see that imprisoned Spider-Man. Yes, Your Majesty, the message has been delivered. When will you arrive? Jarvis's mechanical voice answered after being activated by the voice prompt. 5 minutes later, Bai Ye replied calmly. Finding the lap pillow comfortable, he shifted his head to a more comfortable position. 5 minutes later, Bai Ye vanished silently. When he reappeared, he was at the entrance of the Indian District prison, where a large group of Indian District officials were waiting. Among them, Bai Ye also saw the notorious #1 criminal from before, named Mashiwacha. Upon seeing Bai Ye arrive, the Indian Prime Minister at the head of the group launched into a long speech expressing his excitement. A rough translation of whose classical Chinese was, We, your humble servants, respectfully welcome your Majesty to our land. It is truly an honor for us that your Majesty has come in person. Your Majesty is benevolent and wise, diligent in governing and loving towards the people, deeply revered by all. To see your Majesty's countenance today is a great fortune. We will certainly do our utmost to serve your Majesty, protecting the people of this region and living up to your Majesty's boundless grace. Bai Ye, somewhat tired of hearing such words, remained unmoved, waving his hand and saying, All right, where's that imprisoned fellow? Take me there now. Yes, yes, yes. The leader pointed inside. Your Majesty, please go first. Just turn right at the end. However, the environment inside might be a bit noisy. Not long ago, President Kim also imprisoned those prisoners from outer space here. Bai Ye slowly stepped inside, the men following closely behind, each bowing slightly, leaning forward in a humble posture. Why would Kingpin and his men have the time to keep a bunch of prisoners here? Is there some interest in them? Bai Ye asked curiously as they walked. Well, the president didn't explain, only that he'd need them later, the Prime Minister replied, looking ashamed. Bai Ye nodded casually, not thinking much of it, and let them be. The group soon arrived at the depths of the prison. Upon seeing Bai Ye, the prisoners were stunned, their previous arrogance completely gone. Huh? Thanos. Yondu. Ronan. Star-Lord. Loki. Bai Ye scanned the prisoners' faces, a hint of surprise in his expression. What was Kingpin up to? These were all characters from the original story. For Earth now, these people, aside from their status as characters from the original story, were practically worthless. What was the point of all this? Among the stunned prisoners, there were some reckless ones. The moment they saw Bai Ye, one of the Asgardians tensed his muscles and charged at him in fury. A commoner's rage can spill blood 5 steps away. Even if he couldn't kill or even harm Bai Ye, he would still splatter blood all over Bai Ye to disgust him. But the other party had only taken half a step when more than a dozen of the previously obsequious officials noticed what was happening. Looking for death? That damned alien bastard dares to offend His Majesty the Emperor. With a silent sneer in their hearts, the Asgardian exploded into a spray of blood in an instant, leaving not even a large piece of his body. Standing before the splattered blood, Mashawacha coldly withdrew his right fist. The spray of blood stained the bodies of dozens of prisoners around him crimson, and a stench of blood filled the air. But in an instant, an official raised his hand and cast a spell, directly separating Bai Ye from the space between him and the prisoners, preventing the blood from reaching Bai Ye. As for those aliens who had never seen such a bloody scene before, who were terrified and even wanted to scream, their vocal cords had been removed by the officials, and after a sealing spell, their arms and legs were broken and they were trampled to the ground. In less than a second, 7 or 8 officials had eliminated all potential threats. The remaining officials behind Bai Ye could only reluctantly retract their steps, lamenting that their usual enhancements weren't sufficient and they were a step too slow. One Indian official thought to himself, "No wonder the Prime Minister always says that you only realize how little power you have when you're actually using it. I missed such a good opportunity to protect the Emperor. I should go back and add a few dozen more superpower blessings." Then, as if time had jumped, skipping a dozen seconds, everything settled down. Bai Ye didn't even pause, but all the prisoners in front of him had already been swept aside by the officials, automatically clearing a path for him. No one mentioned the incident. Bai Ye didn't mention it because it was a minor matter for him. The Indian officials didn't mention it because it wasn't a good thing either. After all, His Majesty the Emperor had been assassinated on their territory. Even if they had resolved the situation, it was a serious dereliction of duty. How could they dare to claim credit? Did they expect a reward? The prisoners, their limbs broken in an instant, were swept aside, trying to scream but finding themselves completely immobilized, forced to endure the pain. At that moment, these prisoners understood the disparity Takuya had spoken of. The group behind Bai Ye were all civil officials, weaker than the soldiers who had fought in foreign wars. Even so, they were subdued instantly. If the prisoners hadn't been needed by Kingpin, they wouldn't have survived. Bai Ye slowly walked past the numerous prisoners, who stood before Takuya like statues, and gently waved his hand. The next moment, understanding the unspoken message, all the prisoners present, including the imprisoned Thanos, were dragged away by the officials, leaving only the 2 of them in the entire prison. "Are you Bai Ye? You're a little different from what I expected," Takuya said weakly. "After seeing my empire, what are your thoughts? Do you still want to continue the hostility?" Bai Ye asked. Takuya stared intently at Takuya, nodding firmly. "You are a demon, and this entire empire is a demon's lair. My opinion remains unchanged. I have no doubt that sooner or later, after conquering this universe, you will expand to other universes. At that time, war will rage across every world until you are destroyed or conquer everything." Takuya made no attempt to conceal his hostility. His perceptions over the past few days had only deepened his prejudice. Chapter 286 The Demise of the White Empire. Within the Indian region, Bai Ye showed no displeasure at Takuya's undisguised hostility. Instead, he smiled and said, "Wouldn't it be better to be ruled by me? Join the White Empire, and from then on, wealth, longevity, and power will no longer be luxuries." "Perhaps so, but you only mention what happens after conquest. What about the countless lives lost during the conquest?" Takuya said coldly. "They are nothing more than tiny specks of dust blocking the wheels of the empire." Bai Ye lightly pinched his thumb and forefinger together, making a gesture of a universe at his fingertips. Takuya said with deep disgust, "That's the difference between you and me. You've made the price too light. Moreover, your imperial citizens are arrogant and rude, filled with contempt for alien civilizations. Even if you rule alien planets and other universes, your empire will still be divided into different classes. In the end, it will just be a bloated, poisonous behemoth, the seeds of destruction already sown." "Perhaps," Bai Ye said indifferently, "but as long as I am here, The White Empire will exist, even if the current empire is destroyed. So what? Even if I personally slaughter the entire White Empire, a new White Empire will be established with absolute strength. Takuya gave Bai Ye a deep look. You only see the entire empire as a large toy. No wonder you've never managed it for a single day, and your decrees are utterly absurd, only for your own enjoyment. Otherwise what? Do you expect me to suffer through government affairs? No way. Do you think I'm an emperor to suffer? I'm not using this strength for hardship. Bai Ye sat on the floor without any airs. Those pieces of trash that can't bring me joy and only cause trouble should just be destroyed. Looking at the unrepentant Bai Ye, Takuya knew that the person before him was an absolute demon. The entire White Empire was bound together by this demon's hands. It was built from pure violence, and as long as this guy was around, the empire would be peaceful and prosperous. But if he killed the person before him, or made him disappear for 100 or 1,000 years, the entire empire would fall apart, with each faction occupying its own territory, and then collapse in internal strife. Takuya expressed his feelings, and Bai Ye nodded in agreement, saying, that's right, I feel the same way. I feel like this empire would be finished without me, so sometimes an idea pops into my head. A cruel smile appeared on Bai Ye's lips as he said, I'm thinking, when will I deliberately disappear for a few hundred years or something, then I'll hide in the shadows and see how long it takes for this giant toy to develop cracks, how long it takes for a gap to appear, and how long it takes for it to be destroyed. Don't you think that's pretty bold? Bai Ye asked. His question, seemingly childlike and filled with curiosity, sent a chill down Takuya's spine. The man before him was indeed as demonic as ever. After a long silence, Bai Ye stood up. It seems your spider organization is determined to be my enemy. Then there's nothing more to say. With that, Bai Ye's right hand covered Takuya's head, his expression devoid of joy or sorrow. Since you want to hinder me, then destroy me. Don't worry, don't fret about being lonely. The other members of your spider organization will come down to keep you company. Smack, like a watermelon bursting open. Bai Ye withdrew his still white hand, without a trace of blood. Turning back, Bai Ye slowly walked out of the prison. The various officials immediately came forward respectfully. Your Majesty, has the matter been completed? Why not rest here for a few days? We have prepared a palace for you to stay in, the Indian Prime Minister inquired earnestly. Stay here for 2 days. Bai Ye hesitated for a moment, realizing he hadn't actually been here before. Yes, Your Majesty, he said, our Indian region boasts countless scenic spots. The Mahabalipuram giant reliefs, the Golden Temple of Sikhs, and the Jain colossal stone statues are all exceptional. Not long ago, you even used your abilities to purify the entire Ganges River, both upstream and downstream. All the people of the Indian region hope Your Majesty can rest here for a few days. Seeing Bai Ye's genuine interest, the Indian region's Prime Minister hurriedly urged him to stay. Since Bai Ye ascended to power, he had either been in other universes or resided in New York and Washington for extended periods. This had left other regional administrators with no opportunity to curry favor. Now that the opportunity was before them, they couldn't let it slip away. All right, 2 days it is, Bai Ye agreed. The Prime Minister was overjoyed. Thank you, Your Majesty, for giving the Indian region this opportunity. Would Your Majesty like to rest in the palace we've prepared, or perhaps tour the city? I'm not sleepy yet. Find someone to show me around. With so many of you, please don't follow along. Just be natural. Having made his decision, Bai Ye began to dismiss the people. Yes, the officials on site vanished instantly, making various preparations in the shadows. Things like eliminating security risks, adding beauties to Bai Ye's palace, and arranging matters for the scenic area all needed to be taken seriously. Even if Bai Ye didn't leave behind any dragon seed before leaving, just keeping him comfortable was enough. Did they understand the value of Bai Ye's overnight stay? After Bai Ye left, the outer space prisoners were dragged back into the prison one by one. Upon returning, seeing the corpses with their heads blown open and the blood splattered by Mashua tea, the prisoners had mixed feelings. Because they were people that President Kingpin wanted, healing ability users came up to restore their wounds, and they quickly became lively again. At the same time, the bloodstains and corpses in the prison were cleaned up. Apart from the fact that there was one less person here than before, there was no difference. However, compared to their previous high spirits, the people on site looked like wilted eggplants, with long faces. In just an instant, they experienced the absolute difference. With no way to escape and no hope of fighting, they could only remain quietly and aimlessly in the prison. After another day of waiting, new visitors entered the prison. Still not prisoners, but Kingpin and Future Stark. These are the characters you mentioned, enemies and allies of the future world, Kingpin said calmly, his fat face expressionless. Looking at the familiar faces before him, Future Stark nodded. I understand. Kingpin, cane in hand, slowly walked to them. Sizing them up, he recalled the proposal Future Stark had recently presented him, a situational play based on a Christmas gift. Looking at the bewildered men before him about his fate, Kingpin paused before slowly saying, I need you to be actors in the Empire's play. Huh? Everyone stared blankly at Kingpin. Actors? What kind of actors? Chapter 287 Wholesale Infinity Stones. Inside the Indiana prison, Kingpin's words brought a momentary silence to the crowd. Make them actors? They were captured just to be so-called actors? What? Hard to understand, Kingpin asked, displeased at their stunned expressions. Although he spoke in English, his language-enhancing abilities allowed him to ensure precise comprehension. Despite being from different civilizations and even different species, they still had a concept of the word actor. An actor is a performer who plays a role, or a professional involved in theatrical performances, dramas, films, television series, dances, folk arts, etc. So, capturing them across billions of miles and countless planets, only to spare their lives, was for this? Star-Lord immediately chimed in, we understand theatrical actors, of course. I'm an Earthling too. But what kind of play do you want us to perform? Romeo and Juliet. As he spoke, Star-Lord glanced at the people around him, each one remarkably human-like. If we put this group of people in a play, they'd probably turn Romeo and Juliet into Romeo and a pig spending the night together. Kingpin looked at Star-Lord, his brow furrowing instinctively. How could his body be so weak, so listless, like a piece of cake? He seriously lowered the poverty line for Earthlings' physical fitness. You could probably pull out the kidneys of any 2-day-old baby. Of course I'm an Earthling, but I was stranded in outer space decades ago and only just returned. Star-Lord nodded repeatedly, hoping to get some connections. Kingpin was indifferent. Fine, since you're an Earthling, I'll let you temporarily manage these people. You can start over after this incident. Star-Lord, overjoyed to have the authority of a group leader, nodded repeatedly, saying, President, what should we do next? First, familiarize yourself with the script, Kingpin said, waving his hand, and a large stack of thick scripts with black text on a white background appeared in front of him. Iron Man 1, Thor, The Dark World, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Captain America, The Winter Soldier, The Avengers. Inside were photocopies of all 22 Marvel movies from Iron Man 1 to Avengers, Endgame. Star-Lord instinctively picked one up and started flipping through it. It was the script for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. The others also picked up several and started reading. With the aid of the text, they weren't worried about not understanding. Seeing these alien prisoners engrossed in their scripts, Kingpin instructed Future Stark, I'll leave the rest of things here to you. I'm going back for a bit. Rodriguez is still setting up the scene with the reality stone. I need to go check on it. With that, he turned and left the room as Stark nodded. 10 minutes later, looking at the scripts in their hands, the aliens had varying emotions. The script for the Avengers in front of Yondu detailed Loki's plot and Thanos' plan to collect the Infinity Stones. The only problem was, it was too weak. Indeed, why was Earth so weak in this script? Wang Difa, what's with this Iron Man? Wearing armor and using a laser cannon to fight the Chitauri? Isn't he Earthling? Wouldn't it be more efficient to use his fists? And these guys called Hawkeye, Natasha, and Captain America, how come they're so weak, and why are the Earthlings so afraid of the Chitauri attack? They even ran away. Isn't this city called New York a major Earth city? 30 or 50 people could easily handle it. Why bother with spaceships? Oh my god, is this Avengers some kind of organization for Earth's disabled? While silently reading the script, Yondu slammed it to the ground. Earthlings are bullying aliens too much? They're clearly so terrifying, but in the script they were portrayed as delicate flowers. Why are you pretending to be pitiful? Screaming and running away at the sight of aliens. Who should be screaming here? Yondu felt a pang of anger, thinking he was about to direct a satirical play. Earthlings, with their extraordinary talent for humor, were disguising themselves as pitiful victims. Who really started this war of aggression? The Chitauri attacked New York? Their leader's been arrested and is tied up like a dumpling. Not only him, Loki also looked at Thor's script with a pained expression. Looking at this script of pretentious posturing and face-slapping, and thinking of his deceased brother, the acting was far too different from reality. Boss, is this the script we're supposed to act out? Isn't it a bit too fantastical? Star-Lord, looking at the various alien prisoners, secretly approached Stark and asked. This isn't a script, but a true story that happened in another parallel universe, Future Stark said seriously. A silence filled the prison. That makes sense. It accurately portrays the personalities of each of us, Rocket Raccoon said, looking at the Guardians of the Galaxy with realization. Because the location wasn't on Earth, the strangeness was minimal, and every action was something they could perform themselves. So, you Earthlings weren't born this strong either, Yondu couldn't help but ask, receiving an affirmative answer from Stark. Tell you, this script is the White Empire's top priority. Future Stark looked at the aliens before him and said, I need you to play yourselves and film Iron Man 1 through Avengers 3 a week before Christmas, a month from now, then, at the following Christmas, act out the script for Avengers 4 in real time, so that the White Empire can present a spectacular performance for His Majesty the White Knight's birthday. A month? No, it should be 23 days. How can we possibly manage such a tight schedule? Star-Lord couldn't help but question. How could they possibly handle filming 22 movies in 23 days? If the Empire is willing, there's nothing we can't do, Future Stark said confidently. You just need to be yourselves. All props will be real effects, the locations will be simulated with a reality stone, and death and injury will also be real. However, we will resurrect you later. Then, what about the Infinity Gauntlet? A hoarse voice came from a corner. Thanos spoke for the first time since entering the prison, staring intently at Stark with a resolute gaze. Clang, Future Stark suddenly waved his hand, and the sound of shattering glass echoed. A dozen or so dazzling, multicolored gems fell directly in front of everyone, causing another eerie silence in the prison. They remembered that there were only 6 Infinity Stones, right? Chapter 288, the Avengers series begins filming. Inside the Indianapolis prison, everyone stared intently at the scattered Infinity Stones. These were the Infinity Stones, the earliest things in the universe, representing its rules and power. Yet, they were treated like trash, casually tossed aside by the Future Stark. Some felt a surge of greed, but they managed to control themselves with reason. After all, compared to the Infinity Stones, the guy who could so easily toss them away was far more terrifying. Star-Lord instinctively approached and asked, Boss, I have a question. Did the script say there were only 6 Infinity Stones? How come there are so many? Oh, there are many in parallel universes. For this Christmas, we borrowed dozens from a neighboring universe, Stark calmly replied. After all, parallel universes were endless, and the Infinity Stones weren't rare. Each universe consistently produced 6. Moreover, the people in other universes were incredibly hospitable. Hearing that the White Empire had come to borrow them, they generously gave them money. Before leaving, they even asked when the Empire's heavenly soldiers would arrive, promising to surrender and bend their armor. In short, it's authentic. Hiss, looking at the scattered gems and hearing Stark's answer, everyone's heart sank completely. What kind of resistance was this? So, for the next month, I need your full cooperation to put on this Christmas show, Stark said seriously. I refuse. An alien prisoner stepped forward and said, I will absolutely not help the invaders. Future Stark didn't stop him, but continued to look at the other prisoners and said, anyone else want to refuse? You can stand up together. As soon as he said this, 4 or 5 people immediately stood up to refuse. To this, Stark simply said, the multiverse has no shortage of life. If you don't act, there are plenty of others who will. Since you refuse, then I'll just go to other parallel universes and find another group of counterparts who look like you and have the same past experiences to act. As for you, resisting the Empire will naturally be dealt with according to the law. I don't need to lift a finger. For a moment, everyone was stunned. They could do this? Find their counterparts from other universes to act? Looking at these people, Stark suddenly shook his head. According to the law, these guys should have all been killed for rebelling against the Empire. However, considering that their counterparts from the previous universe had fought alongside him, he made this proposal. He hoped these people wouldn't die under the Empire's iron hooves. Otherwise, as he just said, there were plenty of actors in the infinite universe. But since these guys didn't appreciate his good intentions, there was no need for him to save them. Now pack up and get ready to go to the theater, Stark said. There are other actors waiting for you there. Other actors? Everyone was puzzled. But the next moment, Thanos, who was locked up, noticed that the prisoners who had objected earlier had all vanished without a trace. Thousands of light years away from Earth, on a newly created Earth made of the Infinity Stones, these people met the actors Stark had mentioned. "Hello, I'm Captain America. Nice to meet you. I'm Nick Fury. I'm Bruce Banner." Star-Lord scratched his head, not noticing anything amiss, and shook hands with each of them. Yes, these extras were also recruited from other universes. Don't just stand there. Head over to logistics now and get yourselves a boost, Stark urged. Boost? Yes, it's about transferring the memories and experience of those acting masters to you, so you don't make clumsy mistakes, Stark said matter-of-factly. Not only these people, but he, the future Stark, would also personally lead the project, playing himself. Next, they needed to realistically film 22 movies within 23 days, according to the script. Then, they would distribute these movies throughout the galaxy so that audiences could learn about the specific content in the upcoming Avengers 4 stage play. After all, it was impossible to release all the movies in order on Bai Ye's birthday. That would take several days. Now, our first phase focuses to film all the scenes before Avengers 1, said director Cameron. According to the script, Mr. Stark and your wife need a slight change in their makeup and styling. Everyone on set quickly obeyed their respective film directors and began the intense preparations. Meanwhile, inside the Andromeda Galaxy, 2.45 million light-years from the Milky Way, Captain Marvel spent several months successfully resolving a conflict between two alien civilizations. Looking up at a few distant stars, she gazed towards her home planet. It's been so long since I've been back to the Milky Way. It's time to go back and take a look. With this thought, she transformed into a blue streak of light and headed towards Earth. At her current speed, it would take millions of years to reach Earth. Even with the aid of wormholes, the journey home would still take several dozen days. I've only been away from the Milky Way for less than a year. I should be fine, Captain Marvel thought to herself. The next moment, she physically traversed wormholes, leaping through space towards the Milky Way. Just as she expected, the Milky Way was now completely engulfed in war, and all civilizations had been destroyed. Some remnants of civilizations launched counterattacks, only to be wiped out 2 or 3 times. At the same time, something called movies was being exported by the White Empire, and its civilian population was being forced to watch them. On Xander, as the words Iron Man 1 appeared on the giant screen, a familiar face came into view. This isn't the former president of Earth. Countless aliens on Xander were astonished. Was this a biographical film? But the next second, to everyone's surprise, Stark was blasted away by a missile, bleeding and unconscious, on the verge of death. Watching Stark's unconscious state, some aliens in the audience muttered, "What's with this movie? If you can't make it, don't make it. How can Earthlings be so weak? Are you kidding me?" Soon, as the film progressed, in the eyes of these aliens, the Earthlings' strength on screen was utterly absurd, portrayed as far too weak. Aside from that, it was a decent movie. And soon, new movies were being released at a rate of almost 1 per day. Those unaware of the inside story couldn't even imagine such a thing happening. Chapter 289 The History of Time. Did you see Guardians of the Galaxy yesterday? Of course. But the aliens were so weak, I felt I couldn't even beat my 3-year-old brother, but I preferred Iron Man 1 from a week ago. The follower had such a dark past. I heard that story happened in our parallel universe. Humans in other universes are so pitiful. Yeah, thank goodness for His Majesty. I can't even imagine how terrifying it would be to go back a year. On the street, a group of students, after school, discussed in small groups, some marveling at the drastic changes in the world. They simply couldn't imagine the agonizing experience of having to rely on constant repetition to learn in other parallel universes, where they didn't even have photographic memories. Discussions like this were happening in every corner of the White Empire. In less than a year, the changes in the Empire were visible to the naked eye. Especially for those in their 70s and 80s, practically on their deathbeds. Having accepted birth, aging, sickness, and death, they suddenly returned to youth, and then even had the chance to live forever. Who could resist such a good thing? Meanwhile, Bai Ye, having returned from the Indian region, lay comfortably in a soft chair in New York, enjoying the service of those around him. This feeling of being waited on, though slightly decadent, was undeniably comfortable. While current technology could indeed allow Jarvis to control machines to create lifelike female servants, far surpassing ordinary people in terms of attentiveness, it always lacks something in terms of emotional connection. After all, it felt strange to have an emperor served by a group of AI maids. He was here to rule this empire. His initial declaration of ascension clearly stated his intention to be superior. If everyone was equal, what about ruling the marketplace? Would he then have to enforce a strict hierarchy of age and status? What he desired was to be a pure ruler, sitting in someone's home, with their grandparents bowing to him first, then the parents. After the whole family had kowtowed, it would be the children's turn to respectfully kowtow. That was the attitude he desired. Gently swiping open a chat group, Bai Ye saw that it was currently buzzing with activity. With the chat group reaching 10 members, it was finally less deserted than before. Xiao was sharing her experiences with others. Over the past few days, under her guidance, her friends and family had all learned everyone has skill practice 4.0, with the help of the techniques and key magic. The members of the Black Hand Gang were no longer a match for them, and preventing the 8 demons from emerging through the gates of hell was no longer a challenge. In most cases, the demons were sealed away by the 8 immortals tokens as soon as they appeared. Bai Ye quickly glanced at Xiao's messages and also sent a message in the group, Deep Blue, my birthday is in a few days. I'd like to invite everyone to come to my planet. Seeing the group administrator's message, Xiao's eyes lit up, and like everyone else in the group, she agreed without hesitation. Beside her, in the fitness area of District 13, the Dragon Group, including Uncle Long, and the core members of District 13 were all sitting quietly cross-legged on the ground, circulating energy that was hard to define as either internal force or chakra. These people slowly circulated their ki, and with the increase in energy, their physiques were gradually strengthening, moving towards inhumanity. Within the unseen, abstract world, black and white currents of energy clearly separated and swirled. With each increase in the strength of those present, a trace of righteous energy, representing the positive aspect, would emerge from this abstract world. However, the black energy also continuously amplified. But unlike the righteous energy, this black energy was incredibly active, constantly churning the world like unrestrained fish, brewing something at any moment. Inside the Black Hand headquarters, Valmont's eyes were strange, crimson red, his consciousness being possessed by Shendu. The 7 gates of hell have already been sealed by Jackie Chan. Even if I were to open the 8th gate, they would likely still obstruct me. As he finished speaking, Valmont's eyes cleared, the red light dissipated, and he said angrily, Damn Shendu. You promised to return my body after the plan was completed, but the current situation proves you'll never succeed. You couldn't even defeat 1 Jackie Chan before, let alone 10 or 100 Jackies in Section 13 now. Shendu reclaimed Valmont's body, his tone serious. Things have definitely gone wrong. Something's wrong with this world. They couldn't have succeeded so easily. Somehow, although Jackie Chan and his group's strength had increased, their intelligence and luck, things that are intangible and elusive, had also significantly improved. Otherwise, faced with overwhelming power, these people would have been captured and taken to the safest Section 13 long ago. In this state of absolute sagehood, previously ignored memories began to reawaken, including the theory of the yin-yang balance of this world, which began to reappear in his mind. He also began to notice something amiss in this world. The imbalance between good and evil was too great. Theoretically, there should be macro-level regulation of the world, and it shouldn't be a one-sided crushing defeat. No matter how much you try to shirk responsibility, you can't change the facts. Those District 13 agents could easily defeat us now. Valen, now possessed, roared angrily, You piece of trash, get out of my body. Not far away, Joe, Lasso, and Afin watched their leader, who was experiencing another mental breakdown, somewhat awkwardly, unsure whether to advise him to stop arguing. No, there's definitely a problem. Shendu's tone was grave. The problem lies with Jackie Chan and his group. Finding out will require taking some risks. Valen asked, What else do you want to do? Shendu's gaze shifted from the Paku box. Next, we won't look for the 8th door. We're going to find something more important. Rasu, standing nearby, instinctively asked, What are you looking for? Shendu's voice trembled with excitement. The Book of Time. Half an hour later, as they kicked down the door, a team of District 13 agents burst into the room, only to find it empty. They were too late again. After reporting the situation to District 13, Blake said regretfully, Well, everyone, It seems we're too late again. But they won't always be so lucky. Inside District 13, Old Man solemnly raised 2 fingers. Things aren't that simple. The reason we haven't been able to catch anyone so many times is because we're too strong, causing a backlash from the dark energy. You should have listened to me and given up on your cultivation techniques. Chapter 290 The Muscle Saint. Because we're too strong, that's why the Holy Lord was able to escape so many times. What kind of strange theory is that? Blake looked helplessly at the only old man in the entire 13th district who refused to practice cultivation techniques. Dad, we hope you can practice cultivation techniques too. It's obvious that what Xiaoyu brought back has been scientifically tested and is definitely not harmful. Oh dear. I need to talk to your old man several times, the old man shouted. I'm not talking to you about science, I'm talking about magic. Magic, he said impatiently. The world is in balance of yin and yang, but what Xiaoyu brought back has made the yang side too powerful. You should immediately give up practicing cultivation techniques and remember what your old man said. Dad, you said you would use magic to defeat magic. Blake smiled and said, now we are practicing magic. Only by having enough self-defense power can we prevent evil from succeeding. Beep beep beep. At this moment, with a ringing sound, Blake answered the phone, and the content on the other end made him smile. Guys, we just got news that Valen and his crew have been spotted to the south. This might be our last battle. A day later, on a desolate Australian plain, Valen looked at the cave before him, a glint of excitement in his eyes. You guys stay outside and keep watch for me. When I return, everything will probably be different, said Shendu, who was possessing Valen's body. With that, he entered the cave alone, stopping before a rock pillar after walking a short distance. Without hesitation, he formed a hand seal and solemnly said, open the door quickly, open the door quickly. As he chanted, a vibrant green vortex of space-time appeared before him, and he stepped into it. But before he could, a soon panic cry came from outside the cave. Boss, Jackie Chan and the others are coming. Hearing the voice outside, Shendu quickened his pace, and with a spatial shift, he arrived at a pavilion. Before Shendu was a huge book, as tall as a person, its yellowed pages indicating its great age. The Holy Lord didn't step forward, but continued to perform hand seals, chanting, close the door quickly, close the door quickly. After Jackie Chan and the others quickly dealt with Asu and entered the cave, they saw that the space-time vortex before them had shrunk and then disappeared. They were too late again. Now I have enough time to find the truth, the Holy Lord said confidently. Temporarily blocking the way forward, the Holy Lord didn't directly alter history as he had in the original timeline. Because there were some things he didn't understand, he wasn't at ease. His gaze swept across the pages of the book. The historical record before him documented everything from ancient times to the present, its pages numbering at least 1,000,000. The Holy Lord followed the timeline to the vicinity of the initial anomaly, and after searching further, he found the information he wanted to know. On date, Chen Xiaoyu vanished from this world without explanation. On date, Chen Xiaoyu reappeared, possessing a history from another timeline. She shared her experiences with others and passed on her extraordinary cultivation techniques. On date, after practicing the techniques, the world's balance was broken, and the world would automatically correct itself. Gazing at the fragments of history before him, the Holy Lord's eyes grew brighter. He understood everything. It was precisely because of the changes brought about by Xiaoyu that even the Book of Time couldn't understand how she had disappeared. In other words, this world is now filled with a large amount of unclaimed black energy. Due to the broken balance of good and evil, a hint of madness flashed in the Holy Lord's eyes. The next moment, he picked up a brush and began modifying the Book of Time. As the rule of this world, the Book of Time not only possessed the ability to record history but also the ability to modify it. Everything written upon it would become reality. The Holy Lord has regained his physical body. The Holy Lord used his brush to trace lines in the Book of Time. As he finished writing this sentence, a brilliant light shone from his body, gradually growing larger. At the same time, in the abstract world, the vast, unclaimed black energy began to shrink slightly. As the Holy Lord finished writing this sentence, the unclaimed black energy dropped to about 90% of its original size. The remaining black energy adhered to the Holy Lord's physical body as it appeared. Ah! Valen screamed, falling backward. Turning around, he saw the Holy Lord's enormous figure standing before the Book of Time. After the revisions, he had regained his physical body. Although there were no talismans, It still inspired fear. "I've regained my body," Valen exclaimed in surprise. But then he saw the Holy Lord raise his brush without hesitation, preparing to write the second sentence in the Book of Time. Valmont couldn't help but say, "Wait, you've already regained your body, what else do you need to write?" "Didn't you say that changing history comes at a huge price? I can still feel that the yin and yang of this world are not balanced. I'm just following the call of the world," Shendu's deep voice rang out. As soon as he finished speaking, the words in front of him were written, "Shendu is the source of the dark energy. All the dark energy in the world can be transformed into Shendu's power." In an instant, all the remaining energy began to surge out wildly, squeezing into Shendu's body and continuously strengthening his physique. "Muscle Shendu. Appear, I feel that my power has increased at least tenfold." A hint of crimson appeared in Shendu's eyes. Ignoring Valmont, he walked heavily back the way he came. He was about to take revenge and repay all the humiliation that Jackie Chan and the others had inflicted on him. Inside the cave, Jade, Black, and the others were all blocking the rock pillar, somewhat anxious. "What do you think Shendu wants to do?" "What does that portal want to do?" Jade asked with some doubt. "No matter what, once he comes out, we'll seal them with her magic." "Dad has already prepared the artifact to seal Shendu," Black said confidently. As he finished speaking, the space-time vortex reappeared before them, and a tall figure emerged from it. Nearly 4 meters tall, his green and yellow skin was bulging with muscles, and the sharp claws and scarlet eyes on his dragon-headed body exuded an evil aura. "Ouch! Shendu has regained his body." Jackie Chan quickly used the divine token. Dad's somewhat shrill voice rang out. But in the next instant, a hurricane swept past. Jackie Chan felt a sharp pain in his arm, and his body was sent flying backward, crashing into the wall. The sword he had been holding was now stuck in the rock face. "I'm completely different from before." Jackie Chan, as he spoke, a scarlet light shone in Shendu's eyes, and a pillar of fire suddenly spewed from his dragon mouth, engulfing the surrounding District 13 agents. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291 The End of the World. Boundless ocean, splitting Mount Tuat, sweeping away clouds. Faced with a pillar of fire spewed from Shendu's mouth, the agents of District 13 had no time to dodge and could only unleash their strongest attacks. However, they had only trained for less than a month, and were already no match for the original Shendu, let alone the now enhanced, muscular Shendu. Boom! Before the terrifying pillar of fire at hundreds of thousands of degrees, the bulging energy on these people's bodies was instantly burned through. Scorching flames filled their limbs and bones. Before they could even scream, their bodies were burned to charcoal, then turned into black ash and scattered all over the ground. In the blink of an eye, Shendu killed 7 or 8 people with overwhelming power. Agwan, Hills, Hayden, Dot. Looking at the remains of their comrades, the remaining forces of District 13 cried out in grief. Jackie Chan and the others stared at Shendu in shock, not understanding why he had become so much stronger. As for Shendu, after the attack, he stood still, not pressing his advantage. Instead, he stared at the remains, lost in thought. "Run!" Sheriff Blake cried out. Facing the now powerful and seemingly unrecoverable Holy Lord, he knew the tide had turned. Trying to escape? It's no use. The Holy Lord snapped out of his daze, a sharp grin spreading across his face, and charged after the group. Boom! 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 The earth cracked and trembled beneath the Holy Lord's feet as his massive body swept through like a hurricane. He swept up Xiao and the others, slamming them against the wall, knocking them unconscious. In a short instant, only Blake remained, frozen in place among the dozens of people present. The others had all surrendered. "Weak insects, you are not even worth my time. Simply killing you is meaningless. I will enslave you forever, live forever in the fear of the Holy Lord." Looking at the terrifying monster before him, Blake's legs trembled slightly involuntarily. He tried to muster the courage to throw a punch, but the next second, he was grabbed by Shendu and carried away from the desert by Shendu's claws, heading towards a nearby town. When Blake came to his senses, he found himself taken to the nearest city by Shendu. Looking down at the tiny human on whose claws, Shendu said contemptuously, "Now, if you want to defeat me, run away with all your might. abandon your companions, survive alone, and then come back to fight me with more powerful weapons and stronger people. 3 days. I'll only give you 3 days. After that, I will destroy the entire world. Ordinary people simply cannot survive. I will wait for your futile resistance in the original desert." After saying this, Shendu disappeared from the spot, leaving Blake alone in the city. Looking at the distant hill, Blake trembled, a huge sense of responsibility filling his heart. He had to stop this. With a sense of mission, he immediately took out his phone and called his superiors, wanting them to send more powerful weapons. Magic must be used to defeat magic. Suddenly, his father's words rose from the depths of his heart, causing him to pause. Could mere weapons possibly defeat the current Holy Lord? In an instant, he remembered the Everyone Has Skill manual that Jade had brought him. High above, the Holy Lord looked down at Black below, a mocking smile in his eyes. Just moments ago, after killing those District 13 agents, he could clearly feel a slight decline in the power he had enhanced with dark energy. Some of the dark energy was beginning to dissipate. Undoubtedly, this was due to the balance of good and evil. As the good side weakened, his dark energy was also passively weakened. Feeling this terrifying power that had captivated him, a terrifying thought began to rise in the Holy Lord's mind. Since dark energy and righteous energy were equal, and he was now the embodiment of dark energy, then wouldn't infinitely increasing the power of righteous energy be equivalent to increasing himself? With this thought in mind, he spared Jade and the others who might pose a threat to him, and used words to induce Black to oppose him. That cultivation technique, ordinary people can cultivate it too, right? If all humans cultivate it, they will eventually become my resources, gaining 6 billion times the power. The Holy Lord's eyes gleamed with madness as he vanished into the sky. His next target was his brothers and sisters. Since good and evil were balanced, he would naturally extract all the good from his family. Afterward, he would obtain the Tiger Talisman and use its power to strip away the good and evil from everyone, retaining only the virtuous. Next, he would completely destroy the entire dark world, devouring all the black energy. Only then would true balance between good and evil be achieved. The world would be good, and he alone would commit evil. Even if he ruled the world and lived there for a long time, the world would not resist, because yin and yang would indeed be balanced. As the Holy Lord had predicted, Bai Ye's cultivation technique spread throughout the world to counter him. In just one day, the Holy Lord felt his body strengthen several times over. He himself wandered the world, sealing and eliminating evil energy, squeezing out every last bit of its share. The demons, masks, and demonic energy were all destroyed by the Holy Lord, then replenished within him. Half a day later, gazing upon the monster that had swelled to 5 meters in size and was now perched atop the barren mountain, a desperate battle commenced. Bathed in the flames of nuclear weapons, the Holy Lord stretched out, feeling no discomfort whatsoever. "I am invincible. From this day forward, I will be the eternal ruler of this world," the Holy Lord roared, slashing forward with his right claw, instantly leveling the town before him. Feeling the negligible loss of power within him, the Holy Lord laughed maniacally. In the sky, a camera's overhead lens captured this scene clearly, causing a global uproar. The terrifying Demon King instilled fear throughout the world. "Next, I will transform the entire planet into an extremely harsh environment, forcing everyone to cultivate techniques and endlessly breed to continuously enhance my strength." The Holy Lord laughed arrogantly amidst the flames, excited about his future. In the nearby desert, the deafening roar of a distant nuclear explosion roused Xiao and the others from their slumber. They awoke from their unconsciousness, clutching their aching bodies, feeling weak and confused, not yet understanding what had happened. "Damn it, Shendu has regained his body and is even stronger." Xiao recalled everything that had transpired, a flicker of panic in her eyes. "I wonder what's happening outside now." Jackie Chan shook his head and stepped out of the cave, only to see a mushroom cloud rising in the distance. Countless plumes of dust sweeping towards them. "Jackie Chan? How long have I been asleep? Is this the end of the world?" Chapter 292 Sun Wukong, "I'll fight the Holy Lord? Damn it, damn it, damn it." In the desert, Jackie Chan, with his right arm around Uncle and Jade's group, was running for their lives. Behind them, a huge cloud of dust swept past, swallowing the earth and destroying everything in its path. Fortunately, they had all practiced martial arts, and their physical abilities far exceeded those of ordinary people. Facing the sweeping dust cloud, they unleashed 120% speed, finally managing to keep up with the Grim Reaper chasing them. Meanwhile, in the chat group, Jade was running and pleading for help. Staircase warrior, help. 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 At all members, I'm in big trouble. Shendu has escaped. Can anyone help me? The mention immediately brought everyone out of the chat group. After all, it's rare for someone to add all members like this. Legendary Saiyan, who is Shendu? Is he very powerful? Staircase warrior, he's a very evil dragon. I don't know what happened, but he suddenly became very powerful. Now we're being chased by a sandstorm. Newbie, I know a little bit. According to the strength ranking in the group, the Holy Lord is probably around level 4 to 7, Master Luo, level 7 at most? Then only Mr. Bai and Mr. Sun are confident they can take them down. Legendary Saiyan, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. Seeing the message in the group, Sun Wukong's eyes lit up. He had never traveled to another world before. Moreover, since his first sparring with Bai Ye had refused all his requests to fight. Seeing that someone was willing to save him, Xiaoyu naturally agreed and immediately sent an invitation. Group member, Staircase God of War, sent a cross-world application to the chat group, with half the members. In the blink of an eye, Sun Wukong, who accepted the invitation, pressed the button and traveled to another universe. Marvel Universe. Bai Ye looked at the messages in the chat group, and a series of settings from Jackie Chan adventures flashed through his mind. That world seems to be a balance of good and evil. If Sun Wukong goes there, it should be fine, right? Bai Ye fell into thought, and then felt that there shouldn't be any major problems. After all, the balance of good and evil doesn't work immediately. As long as we eliminate the Holy Lord in time and return before the black energy causes trouble, it'll be fine. With Sun Wukong's strength, wouldn't he be able to easily tear out the Holy Lord's dragon tendons and use them as a belt? However, it seems the Holy Lord's loss of control is indeed related to his internal energy. I overlooked that point back then, Bai Ye pondered, thinking about how to resolve this hidden danger. It was precisely because he understood the strangeness of the Jackie Chan Adventures world that Bai Ye didn't want to join the fray. After all, dealing with the Holy Lord was enough with just Sun Wukong. The sooner he went, the sooner he could return. If he went to that world himself, over time, something bizarre might brew up after he left, and then he'd have to come back to solve the problem. In the Jackie Chan Adventures universe, Jackie Chan and his crew desperately dodged the dust cloud behind them. Suddenly, Jade, who was running away, confidently said, "Uncle Long, I've solved the problem." Jackie Chan asked in confusion, "What did you say?" The next moment, a tall, muscular man with thick black hair stood in front of them. His orange training uniform and blue undershirt complemented each other perfectly, exuding a heroic air. Seeing the group rushing towards him, Sun Wukong smiled gently. "It's safe now. Leave the rest to me." "You are." Looking at the man who had suddenly appeared in front of him, Jackie Chan was about to ask when he saw Sun Wukong suddenly swing his right hand towards the mushroom cloud in the distance. In an instant, a blue energy blast lit up from his palm, transforming into a stream of light and flying out of his hand. Boom! With another huge explosion, two massive shocks from opposite directions collided, then dissipated and returned to calm. When Jade and the others turned around, they saw that the mushroom cloud that had swept towards them had completely dissipated. "Don't worry, there's no danger anymore. I should have already eliminated the Holy Lord," Sun Wukong said confidently. According to Xiaoyu's description in the chat group, the energy blast just now was aimed directly at the strongest gas at the center of the nuclear explosion, which should theoretically have resolved the issue. "Is this your friend from another world?" Jackie Chan looked at Xiaoyu, his eyes filled with surprise. "Of course, everything is resolved now," Xiaoyu said happily. "It's not that simple." The old man, who had been frowning since the beginning, spoke up. "The scales of good and evil are no longer balanced, and a greater evil is brewing again. You need to leave this world quickly." Roar! As if in response to the old man's prophecy, a deafening roar resounded throughout the heavens and earth. At the center of the nuclear explosion, a gigantic figure, growing to over 20 meters tall, tore through the dust and shot straight into the sky. "That's it, that's how it should be. This is a power I've never had before. The entire planet is under my control." The figure of the Holy Lord swooped down from the clouds, tearing a huge rift in the earth, and then leaped to stand before the group. His crimson eyes were fixed on Xiaoyu, filled with immense satisfaction. It was worth it for him to have kept this little girl around. She had indeed given him such a huge surprise. With the appearance of Sun Wukong, An unprecedented surge of righteous energy began to emerge, accompanied by a dramatic increase in his strength. Compared to the black energy that had now surged forth, the previous black energy was insignificant. However, he couldn't reveal this, otherwise, it would be bad if this guy escaped. Without him, his power would regress to its previous state. It would be best if some even stronger and more domineering figures came to fight him together. The Holy Lord pretended to be oblivious and looked at Sun Wukong, saying, "Who exactly are you? How dare you ruin my plans, forcing me to forcibly consume my life force to increase my strength?" So his strength is increased by consuming lifespan, the others thought subconsciously. Because they didn't know much about the Holy Lord, they immediately accepted this premise. Only the old man's eyes showed hesitation. As for Sun Wukong, his eyes gleamed as he looked at the Holy Lord, his fists clenching instinctively as he assumed a fighting stance. "You look quite formidable," he said. "Oh, you want to fight me?" the Holy Lord replied nonchalantly, looking at Sun Wukong. "Then come on, use your strongest, most powerful attack to please me." Boom! Almost as soon as he finished speaking, Wukong and the Holy Lord simultaneously soared into the sky. Since it wasn't a friendly spar, he immediately entered Super Saiyan mode. Unwilling to destroy Earth, both tacitly moved away from the surface. High in the sky, the enormous claw and the heavy fist collided, causing a slight tremor in the ground below. In this collision, Sun Wukong, in Super Saiyan mode, was surprisingly at a disadvantage, being directly sent flying. On one side was the Saiyan Sun Wukong, possessing the power to destroy a star. On the other side was the Dark Key Holy Lord, possessing the power of Sun Wukong combined with 90% of the Earth's dark energy. The battle was almost entirely one-sided, a complete rout. Sun Wukong, I'm fighting the Dark Key Holy Lord? Chapter 293 The Dumber, the Stronger. Long, long ago, the world was ruled by demon wizards. Each wielded the power of rules: fire, sky, moon, thunder, earth, mountain, wind, and water. But the most fundamental logic of this world was divided equally by the abstract concept of yin and yang. This was a power shared by all things in heaven and earth. Yin and yang fluctuated slightly in balance. This was an unchanging law, an eternal rule. Extremes inevitably lead to decline, and everything in its extreme will reverse. On this planet ruled by demon wizards, evil completely overwhelmed righteousness, triggering a counterattack. Soon, driven by righteousness, 8 immortal gods emerged to combat these demons, each using magical artifacts to seal them away. But they also encountered a problem they couldn't ignore. With the demons sealed, and with their help, evil was greatly weakened. Now, evil was completely suppressed by righteousness. To restore balance, a colossal terror capable of defeating everyone was about to resurface. At that time, the entire world would be plunged into eternal chaos. As the scales of good and evil sway ever higher, the battle will continue indefinitely, until one side becomes too heavy, exceeding the scale's capacity, and even good and evil can no longer control it. Faced with this endless cycle, the 8 immortal gods chose self-exile, disappearing into the river of time. But before leaving, they did one last thing: they sealed away all evil in the world, without destroying it, allowing it to remain in the realm of darkness. They also sealed away most of the key magic, leaving only one lineage to pass it down. Thus, theoretically, the weight of this sealed evil far outweighs that of righteousness. After they leave, the righteousness in the world, though far less than the accumulated darkness, will be protected by the excess righteousness, preventing the darkness from ever reviving. In this way, the world, under the arrangement left by the gods, forms a delicate balance. Although occasionally evil breaks the seal and wreaks havoc, it is quickly dealt with by newly emerging righteousness. But these gods overlooked one thing: they didn't consider the development of technology. Yes, technology, skill, strength, physique, wisdom, luck, time, and space are all bargaining chips for both good and evil. And technology, a terrifying technology that can drastically enhance humanity, is exponentially increasing the amount of righteous energy on the human side. Finally, before the millennium, with the help of technology, righteous energy completely overwhelmed evil. A new war between good and evil broke out. And after that, the cultivation technique brought by Bai Ye further accelerated this process. At this moment, the Holy Lord, who had gathered the vast majority of the world's forces, was absolutely invincible. Even if the 8 great gods were alive, they would be absolutely unable to resist him. "I am invincible. I have surpassed everything above the earth," the Holy Lord roared, his roar resounding throughout the heavens and earth, the entire earth under his shadow. His enormous body, swelled to 20 meters tall, struck at Sun Wukong. Boom 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 boom, the terrifying attack struck Sun Wukong, the crushing force of his body repeatedly sending him flying in the clash. This power is so strong, Sun Wukong's eyes were filled with solemnity. In the clash, he felt that his opponent's power was 3 or 4 times stronger than his own. Although his technique was clumsy, he could still suppress him. Every collision made his fists go numb. This was indeed the case. Skill, wisdom, and luck were all weights on the scales of good and evil. The skills that Sun Wukong had acquired through years of hard-won combat had long been transferred to the Holy Lord. A nimble little mouse, a hint of impatience flashed in the Holy Lord's eyes. Although his evil aura kept him at an advantage, Sun Wukong's techniques made the fight incredibly difficult, preventing him from fully utilizing his abilities. It's just combat techniques. With my current abilities, I can learn them if I just watch a little longer. With this thought, the Holy Lord roared and charged forward again. But this time, he no longer used brute force. Instead, he tried to understand Sun Wukong's techniques. In just a moment, the two figures collided again, fists and claws intersecting, creating a hurricane powerful enough to affect the entire country. Below, the Pacific Ocean, blotting out the sky with a massive tsunami, was engulfed by the combined force of their fists, submerging countless humans. In this battle, Sun Wukong's skills, honed over the years, were instantly mastered by the Holy Lord's body, strengthened by the black energy. The effect was immediate. The Holy Lord's power began to fluctuate drastically 100%, 90%, 80%, 70%. In just a moment, the Holy Lord, having learned Sun Wukong's techniques, found his power reduced to only 30% of its previous level. How is this possible? My power. What did you do? The Holy Lord, his strength instantly reduced by 70%, roared in fury, using his technique to deliver a powerful punch to Sun Wukong's face, sending him flying. What's wrong with this guy? His power dropped so quickly, it's much easier to fight him now. Sun Wukong rubbed the red mark on his face, his expression full of confusion. If it were just now, with the Holy Lord's power, perhaps a single blow would have crushed his head. I understand. Looking at the puzzled man in the distance, the Holy Lord suddenly realized. On this scale of good and evil, not only Sun Wukong's skills were a factor, but he himself was also a part of that factor. It was precisely after he learned the techniques that the excess power from the dark energy dissipated instantly, leaving him only with enough strength to defeat Sun Wukong. In other words, although he now possessed the dark energy of an extra planet compared to Sun Wukong, with the current strength of both sides, they could only kill Sun Wukong, but not easily. The more foolish the Holy Lord, the weaker his skills, the stronger the dark energy, the greater his power, and the stronger the Holy Lord. Therefore, the more foolish the Holy Lord, the stronger he became. I understand. The more foolish I am, the more my power increases, the more powerful the techniques I learn, the more they weaken my fighting strength. In an instant, the Holy Lord understood. Techniques would only weaken him, brute force was the only way. Since that's the case, then I won't use my wisdom, I'll just blast you to dust. Thinking this, the Holy Lord abandoned his thinking and flew towards Wukong. But then he saw Sun Wukong clasp his hands together in the distance, a dazzling blue beam of light hurtling towards him. Ka. Me. Ha. Me. Ha. In an instant, facing the beam of light brimming with terrifying energy, the black energy within the divine body surged wildly. Its power surged. Its dominance surged. A crimson pillar of fire erupted from its mouth. This massive pillar of fire, powerful enough to shatter a star, withstood the Kamehameha, and with a slight advantage, engulfed Wukong's body. A painful scream escaped Sun Wukong's lips. Chapter 294 The Power of All Mankind Alone. Watch me fight back. The pillar of fire died down, and a ragged Sun Wukong hovered in the air, his once dazzling golden hair and Super Saiyan form now somewhat dim. His hands hung limply at his sides, his eyes filled with utter horror as he stared at Shendu. The feeling of fighting Shendu reminded him of Bai Ye, who was always slightly stronger than him. Is he toying with me? Faced with this situation, Wukong frowned, sensing something was amiss. Use whatever power you have, Shendu said, his thick tail swishing, his eyes filled with contempt and disdain. Whether it's technique, power, or any other method, try to please me, Shendu grinned, I'll be waiting for you here. If you dare to run away, I will destroy this planet. Just kidding, If I destroy Earth, where will I get the power to defeat you? Shendu thought to himself. He realized these good guys were too easy to manipulate. As long as he threatened to destroy Earth, these guys wouldn't choose to run away, even if it meant fighting to their last drop of blood. Looking at the Holy Lord, Sun Wukong frowned, and after a long while, he said, "All right, wait for me here." As soon as he finished speaking, his body transformed into a streak of light, disappearing into the sky using his flying technique. On the Australian wasteland, Jackie Chan, Jade, and the others waited anxiously. The next moment, Sun Wukong flashed before them. "Brother Wukong, friend, are you alright? How are you?" Jade and the others exclaimed in surprise, looking at Sun Wukong, whose clothes were tattered and whose body was burned red by flames. Sun Wukong's appearance at this moment was definitely not good. The Holy Lord is too strong. I can't beat him head-on. Now quickly tell me what the most famous place on this planet is, Sun Wukong said anxiously to Jade and the others. The most famous place should be the White House in America, they subconsciously thought. Sun Wukong placed his hand on Jackie Chan's head, instantly obtaining the location and memory of the White House from the other's brain. The next moment, without delay, his figure flew into space, heading towards the White House. Looking at Sun Wukong's retreating figure, everyone was filled with worry. Xiao even directly informed the group members of the news. Sun Wukong also messed up? What kind of holy master is this outrageous? Bai Ye and Yang Kate thought to themselves at the same time, seeing Xiao's anxious message in the group. Forget it, I'll go there myself. This group will fall apart in a day without me, Bai Ye thought helplessly, getting up from the sofa. At the White House in the United States, countless media outlets were pointing their cameras at the president. Whether it was the Holy Master's declaration of world domination while withstanding a nuclear bomb or the battle between the Holy Master and Sun Wukong, it had caused panic throughout the world. No matter what, we will fight to the last moment. Humanity will not lose. Facing the camera, the president solemnly stated, but the next moment a figure descended from the sky, landing directly beside him. "Excuse me, I need to borrow the power of this planet," Sun Wukong, with his flowing blonde hair, said solemnly. "You are the one who fought the evil dragon." The president's eyes flashed with shock when he saw Wukong. This person looked exactly like the one captured by the satellite earlier, and countless media outlets focused their cameras on Sun Wukong. This isn't the time for so many questions, the entire world is on the brink of destruction, Sun Wukong said seriously. In the upcoming battle, I need the power of everyone to defeat the Holy Lord. 3 minutes later, the Holy Lord stood atop a mountain peak, arms crossed, a look of amusement in his eyes. After dismissing Sun Wukong, he took the opportunity to completely forget the techniques in his mind, his power returning to its peak. At this moment, even the Blackie suspected that this guy was an idiot. Above the White House, Sun Wukong raised his hands high, facing the cameras of the entire world, and murmured, "Everyone on this planet, please raise your hands together and lend me your power, to protect Earth from destruction. I need your power to fight the Holy Lord." As he spoke, countless points of light appeared on the plants, trees, birds, fish, and insects of the entire planet, converging above Sun Wukong's head. A halo began to form in front of the recording cameras. "This is unscientific." The president, looking at the spirit bomb held high by Sun Wukong, couldn't help but rub his eyes. Even so, he addressed the cameraman, "Although it's hard to imagine, this guy is the hero who fought the evil dragon. Please listen to him and raise your hands with me." As he spoke, the president was the first to raise his arm. In an instant, a blue light began to emerge from his hand, and then he seemed to be drained of all his strength, collapsing to the ground. "Hey, I'm disabled, can I still contribute? How should I know? Anyway, I raised mine." The reporters at the scene, and the men, women, and children watching the live broadcast, all raised their hands with skepticism, then collapsed to the ground. Soon, more and more people heard this request on the radio, television, and other media. "It's Brother Wukong's voice. He wants us to raise our hands to lend him strength." Xiao, seeing the voice on the radio, raised her hands without hesitation. The next moment, Jackie Chan's father, True, and others who had raised their hands contributed their spirit bombs. Meanwhile, the Black Hand Gang members being escorted to prison were stunned by the voice coming from the radio. Lasso hesitated. "Boss, should we raise our hands?" "Of course not, why waste our energy?" Afan said without hesitation, but then Valen raised his right hand. "Boss, what's wrong with you?" "That bastard Shendu," Anyone who goes against him, Valen, will definitely stand up for them, Valen said through gritted teeth. Soon, more and more people raised their hands, contributing their strength to Sun Wukong. And the blue sphere of light above Sun Wukong's head was also growing larger and larger. It's here, I believe this energy sphere is definitely huge. Wukong looked at the energy sphere above his head happily. Then, carrying the energy sphere, Sun Wukong flew high into the air, heading towards Chengdu. At this moment, the energy sphere above his head had grown 200 meters in size. This amount, are you kidding me? Looking at the huge sphere of light coming from afar, a trace of solemnity flashed in Chengdu's eyes. But out of confidence in his own strength, the next moment he actually took the initiative to meet it. Take this, spirit bomb, this isn't just my power, it's the spirit energy of all humanity. Our bond can't possibly lose to you, Sun Wukong roared, hurling the spirit bomb from above his head. The massive burst of energy engulfed the figure of the Holy Lord. It worked, Sun Wukong exclaimed in delight, but his expression froze a moment later. He saw the spirit bomb, which had been crushing forward, suddenly stop and push back in the opposite direction. The mere spirit energy of all humanity is nothing compared to even a fraction of the darkness in everyone's hearts. Don't be too smug. Watch me single-handedly push you all back. This earth, it will be ruled by me, the Holy Lord roared, feeling his body amplified by the black energy, pushing the 100-meter-high spirit bomb back bit by bit. Chapter 295 White Knight, Earth? No need for it. 1 step, 2 steps. Under the roar of the Holy Lord, the massive spirit bomb was forcefully pushed back, engulfing Wukong's figure. Everyone watching on television via satellite was speechless. Will Brother Wukong be alright? Xiaowei was extremely anxious. But at this moment, the Holy Lord's power was beyond their capabilities. Just then, Old Man shouted, hurry back to that cave. Old Man must find out what the Holy Lord did there. No need, a booming voice came from the side. The group turned around, their expressions changing drastically, and saw the Holy Lord's towering figure standing before them. The next instant, everyone's eyes narrowed as they looked at the Holy Lord's claws. The Holy Lord's claws were now pulling at Sun Wukong's hair, and Sun Wukong was now only left with his upper body. His lower body was gone. His exposed upper body was covered in wounds, and he had fallen unconscious, but was still clinging to life. The power of the horse and dog talismans on Shinsu's body continuously sustained Sun Wukong's life, preventing him from dying. Even now, with Sun Wukong severely injured and on the verge of death, the black energy he provided far exceeded the combined power of everyone on Earth. If Wukong died, over 90% of the black energy on his body would disappear. Therefore, for the sake of his own strength, he had to protect Sun Wukong's life no matter what. Shinsu leaned down and stared at Xiaoyu, his eyes filled with immense satisfaction. Well, now that your friend has been defeated by me, what can you do? As he spoke, he grinned, revealing his fangs. It seems you are completely helpless, is that so? At this moment, a calm voice rang out from the side. When Shinsu reacted, he saw a handsome young man with waist-length hair grabbing Wukong's arm, looking at him coldly. Sorry, preparing things took a little time, so I'm a bit late, Bai Ye said apologetically to Sun Wukong and Xiaoyu, not expecting the situation to be so serious. And who are you? Shinsu's eyes showed a hint of solemnity. He could sense that the power within this man wasn't particularly strong, as his black energy hadn't increased much, yet he had managed to snatch Sun Wukong from his grasp. That's not your concern right now. Bai Ye turned to look at the Holy Lord, his tone icy cold. What you need to consider next is how to die without pain, because I will beat you to death, huh? You. PFFT. Before the words were finished, the Holy Lord spat out a mouthful of emerald green blood, tearing a rift in the earth and shattering the deep mountains behind him. Barking dog, Bai Ye withdrew his right fist, calmly looking at the super rift, tens of kilometers long and 1 kilometer deep, his long hair swaying behind him. How is this possible? How is this possible? Deep in the mountains, the Holy Lord clutched his stomach, feeling as if his intestines were about to burst, his expression filled with horror. Jackie Chan and the others also stared in shock at the vanished Holy Lord. This was the first time they had seen their side gain the upper hand. Don't worry, leave the rest to me, Bai Ye said calmly, his gaze fixed on the white lines above Xiaoyu and the others' heads. At this moment, his body had already become conceptualized, beyond the scope of conventional physical laws. In his eyes, the concept of ki could be clearly seen. In this world, everyone has black and white ki above their heads. Even Bai Ye himself had black and white ki after entering this world. In his eyes, the Holy Lords had the most black ki, occupying a full 99% of the entire world. Moreover, everyone's black ki was all intertwined in a spiral, connecting to the Holy Lord's body. Since that was the case, considering the concept of the balance of good and evil in this world, everything became clear. The Holy Lord was the embodiment of the black ki in this world. Although I don't know how he did it, as long as the speed at which my power increases exceeds your transmission frequency, you won't steal my power, right? Bai Ye stared coldly at the Holy Lord in the distance, his right fist clenched tightly. Brother Bai, Xiaoi said hurriedly, looking at Bai. I don't know what the Holy Lord did in that cave in Australia, but he became very strong after coming out. No need to explain, leave the rest to me. You just need to watch from the side. After Bai finished speaking, his body turned into a blur and flew towards the Holy Lord using a force field. On the mountain that had turned to dust, the Holy Lord stood up from the ground, clutching his abdomen, his eyes filled with rage. Since regaining his body, this was the first time someone had made him feel pain. Seeing Bai slowly flying towards him from a distance, the Holy Lord roared and charged forward, his right claw tearing through the air towards Bai's head. Boom! The next moment, half of the Holy Lord's head was blown off, and his right claw fell to the ground. But in an instant, it was restored under the effect of the dog and horse talisman. How is this possible? This guy's power is definitely problematic. The Holy Lord's eyes were filled with fear as he sensed the difference in that instant. In his normal state, Bai's physical abilities were far inferior to his. But at the moment of attack, both power and speed would surge tens, hundreds, or even thousands of times, only to return to normal afterward. The answer is self-limitation. As a variant ability of unparalleled nobility in the eyes of the apocalypse, while not comparable to the concept of a power panel, it is far beyond the comprehension of this world. Therefore, naturally, the power stored in the illusory space by Bai Ye would not be copied by the Holy Lord. Since this is the case, as long as he could increase his power to hundreds or thousands of times his original strength at the moment of attack, and then instantly return to normal, as long as he was fast enough, the Holy Lord's black energy wouldn't have time to copy it. Having a recovery ability is best, so I can play around without restraint for a while longer. Looking at the bewildered Holy Lord, Bai Ye grinned and continued to swing his right fist. I said I would beat you to death. With that, Bai Ye's power increased more than 10,000 times in an instant, and his fist slammed into the Holy Lord's right shoulder. The power, like the rotation of a star, was transmitted to the Holy Lord, completely shattering his several-meter-long right arm. The entire process of power transmission and reception lasted a mere 0.00000001 seconds, leaving the black energy no time to replicate. Stop, poof, the Holy Lord tried to speak, but the next moment, Bai Ye's right fist slammed into his thigh, his entire right foot exploding into a shower of green blood. If you, boom, dare to continue attacking, boom, I'll, boom, destroy Earth. The Holy Lord's words were broken and fragmented. With each few words he uttered, Bai Ye's attack would arrive, delivering a powerful punch that destroyed a portion of his body. After enduring the pain and finishing speaking, the Holy Lord saw Bai Ye's movements pause slightly, ceasing his attack. Sure enough, good people won't allow Earth to be destroyed, the Holy Lord thought, but the next moment, his eyes widened in shock. Bai Ye suddenly raised his right hand high, slamming it towards the earth, roaring, I don't need you to destroy it. This world that hurt my friend has no reason to exist. Holy Lord, stop. With this kind of power, Earth will be destroyed. Chapter 296 Holy Lord, I will protect Earth. Bai Ye belongs to the righteous faction. Although this conclusion is far-fetched, it was indeed the case before he destroyed the Earth. Even Bai Ye himself didn't consider himself a good person. But judging which side a person belongs to isn't based on their thoughts, but on their actions. For example, before the original story's ending, facing the overwhelming advantage of the evil faction, Xiao Long, under the operation of the righteous faction, pulled Shengzu to their side. And at that time, Shengzu was temporarily on the righteous side. The same applies to Bai Ye now. In the righteous faction's judgment, this guy was brought by Xiao Yu, and his past record is unclear, so they'll just give him a righteous faction badge for now. However, what the righteous faction never expected was that this madman, Bai Ye, facing the serious injuries of his chat group members, was preparing to directly destroy the world. Oh my god, the earth will be destroyed. Seeing Bai Ye raising his hands to smash the earth, Xingzu completely panicked. You see, the entire human race on earth is its base, and it plans to harvest all of humanity next. The so-called threat to Bai Ye is that it doesn't dare to kill humans at all. Otherwise, what would he rule over next? Humans are also a crucial part of his dark power. As the Holy Lord spoke, Bai Ye's fist abruptly stopped, a playful smile on his face. Oh, you actually told me to stop, so you don't dare let this earth be destroyed. Bai Ye's face twisted into an incredibly sinister and arrogant smile. Yes, in the Holy Lord's eyes at this moment, the smile of the guy before him was utterly sinister. Then let's play a game. Bai Ye looked at the Holy Lord before him, the power stored in his illusory space surging forth. But this time, he didn't choose to withdraw it instantly. As Bai Ye's power increased, the Holy Lord's physical abilities also rose accordingly. And because of the combined power of Earth and the crippled Wukong, the Holy Lord's power was now even stronger than what Bai Ye had released. Next, right here on Earth, I will beat you to death, Bai Ye said, looking at the Holy Lord. The Holy Lord didn't know what the human before him was up to, but he had a bad feeling. What exactly do you want to do? What do I want to do? Bai Ye drawled, then charged towards the Holy Lord. Of course, I want to kill you. The next moment, Bai Ye flashed to the top of the Holy Lord's head, his right fist descending like the splitting of the heavens and earth. Facing this punch, the Holy Lord thought of the sudden increase in the opponent's power and wanted to dodge, but the next moment his pupils shrank. Because beneath him was the entire earth. If he dodged, wouldn't the earth be destroyed by this guy? Damn brat! Looking at the fist getting closer and closer, the Holy Lord gritted his teeth. Should I dodge? Or not, and gamble that this guy, like me, wouldn't dare to destroy the earth? Thoughts flashed through the Holy Lord's mind, but there was only a brief moment, and in the end, he didn't dare to gamble that Bai Ye wouldn't destroy the earth. So at this moment, he could only be incredibly frustrated and neither dodge nor evade, hastily throwing his right fist at Bai Ye. Boom! Between the two fists, a terrifying fist wind shook out, forming a huge vacuum circle. Below, billions of tons of seawater were blasted apart by atmospheric pressure, creating a massive, bottomless abyss. The resulting tsunami surged past, threatening to engulf the small countries along its path. This guy really isn't holding back. Feeling the force of the punch, the Holy Lord hardened his resolve, but the next moment, Bai Ye's barrage of blows began. Bai Ye's right fist became a blur, unleashing tens of thousands of punches capable of shattering planets towards the Holy Lord. In their eye contact, the Holy Lord could see the mocking smile in Bai Ye's eyes. Go ahead and dodge. If you dare to even flinch, the entire earth will cease to exist. Although Bai Ye didn't speak, the Holy Lord understood that this was his meaning. Damn it, then I won't dodge. Facing such a threat for the first time, the Holy Lord became utterly ruthless. I refuse to believe I can't protect a mere planet. With this thought, the Holy Lord stopped dodging and met Bai Ye's punches head-on. His strength was already slightly greater than Bai Ye's, and even forced into a fistfight, he was in no way inferior. But Bai Ye's toying with him wasn't over. As the Holy Lord focused on dealing with the attack, he saw Bai Ye assume a stance, flowing water rock-shattering fist. Instantly, a force shot out from Bai Ye's hand. The Holy Lord wanted to retaliate, but the force was like an eel, circling his body and heading downwards. Not good, Earth. The Holy Lord was shocked and had to turn around to chase after the force that resembled flowing water. But in doing so, his back was exposed. Ha ha ha, fool, damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Bai Ye's mocking laughter came from behind, and in an instant, hundreds of combo attacks bombarded the Holy Lord, directly shattering most of the flesh on his back. PFFT, a mouthful of bright green blood spurted from the Holy Lord's mouth. It turned back angrily, only to see hundreds more punches, each carrying the force of shattering rocks and flowing water, bypassing it and blasting towards the earth below. You can block 1, but can you block 10, 100? Bai Ye laughed wildly, as if looking at a dying ant. Today I'm going to toy with you to death, despicable. The Holy Lord spat out these words through gritted teeth, enduring Bai Ye's attacks while constantly trying to salvage the situation. Before long, half of its body exploded in this way. Even with the horse and dog talismans working their best to repair its body, it couldn't keep up with Bai Ye's destructive speed. Now, the relationship between Bai Ye and the Holy Lord was like that of a cat and a mouse. The cat could easily defeat the mouse, but to protect the dishes thrown by the mouse, it could only run frantically, being toyed with. Under the constant bombardment, the Holy Lord also found a clue. If it focused its full attack on Bai Ye, it could slow down the speed at which the opponent attacked the Earth. Finally, before it could even rejoice at finding a method, a cold voice sealed its fate. "Forget it, I'm tired of this game." Boom. Bai Ye, now fully focused, gave the Holy Lord no chance to react. A terrifying burst of energy pierced through the stars in an instant. A hollow hole hundreds of kilometers long appeared, from which one could easily see the cosmos on the other side. Then, under the influence of the energy, the crack spread outwards from the hollow, before exploding violently. No, with the Holy Lord's furious roar, the entire Earth instantly turned into cosmic dust, the endless dust being swept away. As the Earth shattered, the amount of black energy within the Holy Lord's body visibly decreased. In the blink of an eye, his power was reduced to less than a tenth. This was because, after destroying Earth, Bai Ye was finally judged to be on the villain's side. Chapter 297 White Knight, I'll scatter the universe. You'll regret it. Wow. My Earth. In the void of space, the Holy Lord roared in fury. But because he was in a vacuum, no one heard his roar. At this moment, he was filled with extreme hatred and rage towards Bai Ye, but it was utterly powerless to reverse the situation. Because with the destruction of Earth and the disappearance of humanity, all the righteous energy offered by humans vanished without a trace. Not only Earth, but also the black energy offered by Xiaoyu, Jackie Chan, Sun Wukong, and others had all disappeared. Since all life ceased to exist, the excess black energy residing within the Holy Lord vanished completely. You ask about Bai Ye? The Bai Ye who destroyed Earth now belonged to the black energy camp. Therefore, Bai Ye's existence would not make the Holy Lord stronger. On the contrary, because only black energy remained in the world, the excess white energy would create a new messenger of justice to jointly sanction the two. As for who would act as the messenger after humanity's disappearance? This target of punishment didn't necessarily have to exist in the present, it could also come from the past or future, traveling through time and space. In the blink of an eye, the Holy Lord's power continuously deteriorated, and all the power gained from inflating his body vanished. Within a short time, its height shrank back to its original 4 meters, and only the original strength of its physical body remained. Bai Ye, under the influence of the force field, flew to the Holy Lord's side and mocked, "How about it? Your carefully protected possession was destroyed before your eyes. You must be feeling terrible, damn you, you're utterly despicable, shameless, and inhuman." The Holy Lord roared, but its words couldn't be transmitted in the vacuum. "Useless, useless. I'm not only going to destroy Earth, but now I'm going to beat you up too. Aren't you angry?" Bai Ye said, raising his hand and slapping the Holy Lord hard across the face, shattering half of its body. Then, while the Holy Lord was unable to resist, he brutally ravaged it. And while he was beating the Holy Lord, in his illusory space, billions of people, along with cats, dogs, chickens, geese, and other creatures, gathered together. With his current strength, his illusory space was naturally large enough to contain a planet. Containing the billions of life forms of Earth was no problem at all. For him, the moment of destruction was all it took to load the Earthlings into this place a step ahead. And Bai Ye's ethereal space could shield them from the interference of both good and evil energies. Xiaoyu and the others felt a sudden darkness before their eyes, finding themselves in a vast, pitch-black space, surrounded by the noisy sounds of people. Soon, someone took out a flashlight or a cell phone for illumination. Using the surrounding light, she finally found her scattered teammates. Outside the space, Bai Ye, while brutally beating the Holy Lord with one hand, easily shattering its body time and again, also spared a sliver of attention for the chat group Deep Blue, at Playboy. "Is everything ready, Playboy? It's been ready for a while, do you want me to send it to you now, Deep Blue? Hurry up." Group member Deep Blue sent a red envelope to Playboy. Group member Playboy sent a cross-dimensional request to the chat group, 02 participants. In the blink of an eye, Xiaoyu, staring at the chat group, felt her surroundings suddenly empty, plunging her back into darkness, with only Sun Wukong beside her. The red envelope feature was recently unlocked after the chat group was upgraded to level 4, see chapter 274 for details on the upgraded features. The first time this feature was used in this chat group was when Bai Ye teleported all life on a planet to another world. Playboy, at Staircase God of Warrior, at Legendary Saiyan, quickly accept the group chat invitation, it'll be too late if you don't leave now. What does that mean? Xiaoi was stunned for a moment, then saw Stark's next sentence. Playboy, if you don't want to perish with the universe. Perish with the universe. Xiaoi's brain froze for a moment, then she suddenly snapped to attention. She immediately shook the unconscious Sun Wukong awake, and then simultaneously clicked the group chat invitation. After accepting the invitation, the scene before them changed again, and they saw Stark in a formal suit standing in front of them. Besides him, there was also a bald woman in an orange robe. The woman was sitting cross-legged on the ground, and around her, intricate patterns were carved into the ground, resembling a mysterious array. At each node of this formation, a dazzling gem was embedded. There were hundreds of such gems in the formation, arranged in 6 colors. As the woman made complex hand gestures, threads of their respective colors spread from each gem, intertwining in the air to form a black sphere composed purely of concepts, containing a terrifying aura. Xiaoi felt at a single glance that even the great Dao could be obliterated within this sphere. A few seconds later, the woman stopped casting her spell, revealing an energy glove wrapped in gems, which she handed to Stark. This was made according to Bai Ye's request. Take it to him, Ancient One said, looking at Stark. This was a conceptual weapon condensed from the energy of hundreds of infinity stones, intertwined with 99 cosmic roots. Even among the magic Ancient One had learned, it was an extremely high-level existence, and this was the first time she had used it in reality after mastering it. Stark nodded solemnly, knowing the purpose of the black sphere, and turned to toss it over with a red envelope. Although the infinity stones cannot be used in another world, the things derived from them are very real. If the stones were to solidify into a stone, it would naturally be a stone in another universe. The energy extracted from the stones would not simply disappear in another world. And those killed by the stones, if brought to another universe, would naturally not be resurrected. Therefore, upon seeing the red envelope sent by Stark in the group chat, Bai Ye did not hesitate. He kicked the body that Shendu had once again reconstructed, preparing to accept the red envelope. Let's destroy it here along with this universe, Bai Ye coldly uttered, choosing to return the moment he accepted the red envelope. He had already said that the world that had severely injured his friend had no reason to exist. This world, of course, did not refer to Earth, but to the entire Jackie Chan Adventures universe. Today, he was going to destroy this entire universe. As for what would happen to Jade after the universe was destroyed? She could just stay in Marvel forever. Did he really need Jade's food? Anyway, there was no time limit for staying in the chat group. He could stay as long as he wanted. He could support all the humans in Jackie Chan Adventures, find them a separate planet to live on, and grant them ordinary citizenship in the White Empire. Everything would be solved. This universe, where death is justified, would naturally have no reason to exist. Thus, the first group world destroyed by Bai Ye was born. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298: The Destruction of the Universe and the Ancient One's Magic. In the Marvel Universe, after accepting the invitation, Bai Ye's figure began to appear. Standing before the group, Bai Ye looked at the eye-catching magic circle. The array, composed of hundreds of gems, burst forth with dazzling light, drawing everyone's attention. He had originally intended to arrive in Jade's world as soon as possible, but he had been delayed by preparing this. After all, just moments ago, the entire White Empire only had a few dozen infinity stones in reserve. To gather the materials, they had no choice but to have hundreds of Imperial citizens urgently travel through time and space to snatch the gems from the Avengers who had also traveled through time in Avengers Endgame. Those Avengers who had just obtained the gems had them snatched away before they could even enjoy them. They didn't even get a chance to explain, and could only stand there in despair, wondering if they would have to return to their original timeline empty-handed. Return these hastily gathered gems, we don't need them for now, Bai Ye said to Stark. Stark nodded, without objection. In any case, the multiverse was his resource library, he could always take more later. Mr. Bai Ye, Xiaoyu approached nervously and asked, where are Uncle Long, Dad, and True now? And what about Uncle Stark's talk of destroying the world? Don't worry, your friends are fine now. Bai Ye looked at the unclaimed red envelopes in the group chat without batting an eye. Nobody knew where those he considered red envelopes were now stored. As he spoke, Bai Ye clicked cancel send on the red envelope in the group chat, and instantly the red envelope was returned intact, reappearing in the illusory space. As for your world, it should be destroyed by now, Bai Ye said maliciously, leaving Xiaoyu speechless. At this moment, in Xiaoyu's original universe, a black sphere brimming with destructive energy appeared alone in deep space, its terrifying danger drawing the righteous energy to its peak. In the eyes of the entire world, this was a critical moment of life and death. If they couldn't withstand it, not only would righteousness and evil be unleashed. In the blink of an eye, the world's counterattack began. Whoosh! 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 All the powerful beings of the past and future of the entire world were now within the rules, appearing near the black sphere like dumplings being dropped into a pot. But the next moment, destruction began. Time. Space. Power. Soul. Spirit. Reality. These fundamental forces that constitute everything in the universe began to run rampant under the influence of the chaotic black sphere. The chaotic time caused every Planck scale of matter in the universe to change, while the disordered rules of space disrupted the order between each particle. In just an instant, the sun of this universe was split into countless parts and sent to different locations in the universe. Some of the matter began to decay, while others returned to their initial state, exhibiting different temporal states. And countless terrifying forces, similar to gamma-ray bursts, wreaked havoc throughout the universe, the abstract forces directly causing turmoil within the universe. The rampage of the concepts of soul and spirit gave every particle the ability to think and perceive, but also made them feel the pain of destruction in an instant. Finally, the concept of reality changed, and the underlying foundation of the universe began to be extracted. 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional, 1-dimensional. During this process, the entire universe, weakened by reality, had its very logic of existence stripped away. The entire process lasted 10 seconds. Finally, everything returned to calm. In a void where there was neither up nor down, no time, no space, and nothing existed, not even a trace of a corpse remained in the entire universe. Returning to the Marvel universe, Xiaoyu, hearing Bai Ye's words, widened her eyes. The world has been destroyed. How do we go back? No need to go back, just stay here. Bai Ye smiled and stuffed the super moose plushie he had retrieved from his special dimension into Xiaoyu's arms. Don't worry, I moved your house and land here when I destroyed the universe. In the new world, without the rules of good and evil, nothing strange will bother you. Bai Ye ruffled Xiaoyu's hair and said, actually, I'm quite looking forward to adventure. Without adventure, I'll just have to go back to studying all the time, Xiaoyu muttered softly, causing Bai Ye's smile to freeze. He then remembered that this little girl in front of him was always stirring up trouble and would later become the sheriff of District 13. Bai Ye said helplessly, you're all following me now, so you're worried about not having anywhere to play? I'll take you out for fun once a month, and the rest of the time you should go back to school and study. Thank you, Mr. Bai Ye. Xiaoyu jumped up and cheered happily. Alright, let's pick a planet with a suitable living environment for you to settle down on first. After Bai Ye finished speaking, he looked at Stark, leaving the other speechless. Stark thought to himself, you showed off your ability to destroy the universe, and now you're leaving the cleanup to me. We're already short-handed for the Christmas preparations, and now I have to arrange appointments for another planet. Although he was unhappy, it was already decided when the White Empire was founded that the entire empire would serve Bai Ye alone. Improving lives, achieving immortality, and working for the welfare of the people were just secondary considerations. Unable to refuse, Stark could only agree. I understand. Leave the cleanup to me. Bai Ye nodded slightly. He didn't want his illusory space to continue containing those humans. It would be best to resolve the issue as soon as possible. He continued to look towards the door. With the White Empire's global defense team using their inner strength to heal him, Goku's severed lower body had grown back. He changed his pants and walked in from another room, awkwardly rubbing the back of his head, saying, oh dear, this defeat was too crushing. If it weren't for the administrator, I almost wouldn't have made it back. Looks like you'll have to train even harder when you get back, Bai Ye advised. Don't get so worked up. This enemy was a mechanic monster. Unless you can reach the level of Super Saiyan God, you can't simply overcome skill with brute force. Super Saiyan God? I'll achieve that. Knowing the plot, Goku was filled with fighting spirit. He believed he would reach that level much sooner than before. After chatting for a few more minutes, Goku left the universe first, full of fighting spirit. Bai Ye followed closely behind. taking Tama to choose a planet, leaving only Stark and Ancient One behind. Stark, who was worried about the Empire's manpower shortage, suddenly brightened up when he saw Ancient One beside him. Ancient One. The Empire is currently short-handed. Is there any magic that can alleviate this? Faced with Stark's plea for help, the Ancient One hesitated for once. It's not that there isn't. If you're short-handed, sir, I have time-splitting magic that can bring back your past and future selves. Stark's eyes lit up as the Ancient One finished speaking. Chapter 299 Instant Refinement. Please, Ancient One, teach me. Stark's eyes lit up as he spoke. If he could continuously replicate himself as the Ancient One suggested, it would greatly solve the labor shortage problem. Alright, after the Ancient One finished speaking, a magic book appeared in her hand. With the help of the Time Stone, you can easily split yourself into different times. Then one person can be used as 10 or 100. Hearing the Ancient One's words, Stark was excited and nodded repeatedly. That's wonderful, but, is it difficult to learn? It's not difficult to learn. You can get the hang of it in just a few minutes. Then you can also help others cut through time and space. The Ancient One's words immediately dispelled all of Stark's doubts. Okay, please teach me, Ancient One, Stark requested again. The Ancient One hesitated for a moment, then nodded hesitantly. A few minutes later, Stark looked at his clone and smiled. You have all my memories. Now go and finish everything for me, and then? Go back and kiss my wife, the clone Stark said with a sour face. If you won't let me go, do you expect me to go? Stark glared. I have a chat group. I'm the real one, you imposter. With that, he raised his hand, and the Spirit Stone emitted light, directly controlling the clone. Moments later, the clone's eyes were covered in a ghostly blue light, driven to carry out tasks according to Stark's orders. Watching the clone's retreating figure, Stark said with satisfaction, very good. This way, the entire Empire won't have to worry about manpower, Mr. Stark, although this magic is risk-free, please treat your clone well. After all, the clone is no different from the original, Ancient One advised. Don't worry, I will treat him the way Bai Ye treated me, Stark assured him, then let the speechless Ancient One leave alone. A day later, all the soldiers on the front lines received an order. Soldiers who felt too busy with the battle to leave could request clones to assist, but were asked to treat their clones properly according to the clone user manual. Immediately, many soldiers, already weary from the war, chose to request clones. Soon after, the clones split from the Time Stone and controlled by the Mind Stone appeared, taking charge of most of the battlefield tasks. With the help of these clones, the previously incredibly rushed project began to have some flexibility. Of course, this involved exploiting the clones. Although there were manuals for using the clones, misuse was the norm. As this progressed, Bai Ye's birthday drew ever closer. Finally, a week before Bai Ye's birthday, all the movies except for Avengers Endgame had been filmed. Cut, as countless actors were snapped to dust, director Cameron shouted, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Thanos rubbed his shoulder, which had been smashed by Thor's hammer, the pain acutely felt, because the wound was indeed real. Alright, let's bring back those characters who died, the producer stepped forward and said. With a snap of his fingers, the actors who had just finished filming were resurrected one by one. Death is truly awful, Gamora said helplessly, especially knowing you're about to die. It's alright, you were just thrown to your death by Thanos, there wasn't much pain at all. Yondu a few days ago was slowly killed in outer space without uttering a sound. That's a true veteran actor. You guys have a lot to learn, Star-Lord, who had just come from the next set, said. Gamora gave Star-Lord a cold look, not wanting to acknowledge him. Ever since they played a couple in the last Guardians of the Galaxy movie, this guy had been intentionally or unintentionally getting close to her, even saying they were a match made in heaven, and he really was into it. At the same time, she also looked at Thanos, who had just finished tending to his wounds, her eyes filled with complex emotions. She had no idea before that Thanos actually had feelings for her. She had thought this man who was preparing to destroy the world was utterly cold-blooded. After filming wrapped on Avengers Infinity War, Cameron stepped forward and announced, alright, most things are done. You're all on holiday for a day. Finally, we'll perform the Avengers Endgame scene at Christmas. Remember not to make any mistakes. Completing this will make you citizens of the Empire. The director is right. Everyone nodded and cheered. Even Thanos was moved. After all, the existence of the White Empire was like a dreamlike paradise, with unlimited resources but a limited population. There was no better place, directly solving the long-standing problem of cosmic urbanization. Having only stayed there for a little over a month, these former alien prisoners felt that the moon in the White Empire was a bit too round and too bright. The game White Empire offers unlimited lifespan, epic body enhancements, one resurrection opportunity per year, and access to mythical weapons upon joining. It's incredibly friendly to newbies. And right now, the most popular live stream on Earth is watching aliens endlessly praise Earth to the camera. Like uncultured bumpkins, they cheer at the camera. I love the White Empire. The White Empire is so amazing. Although it was undeniably corny, Earthlings loved watching it. Countless people tuned in for each live stream, earning more than everyone on Earth combined, much to the envy and resentment of their local counterparts. As time marched forward, it finally arrived at Bai Ye's birthday. An invitation from Bai Ye was received in the chat group, Deep Blue, it's my birthday. If you're free, come over and join us. Group member, Deep Blue, sent a cross-dimensional request to the chat group, with 07 members. Inside the mortuary, Lin Jiayu, dressed in formal attire, looked incredibly serious and said, "You all keep a close watch. I might not be back by noon." After receiving the gold from Bai Ye, the mortuary where Lin Jiayu was now located had been completely renovated, no longer resembling its former dilapidated state. Looking at Lin Jiayu's appearance, his two disciples asked curiously, "Master, why are you dressed so formally, attending a friend's birthday party?" "When I get back, I'll film it for you to see what true grandeur looks like," Lin Jiayu said. "Can't you take us too? We want to see it too," the two disciples pleaded. "Sigh, it's not that I don't want to, I also," Lin Jiayu paused halfway through his sentence, then muttered to himself, "It seems like it's not impossible." With that, he grabbed the two disciples by the head and instantly refined them. Group member, Lin Jiayu, sent a red envelope to Playboy. Chapter 300 Christmas Prelude. In New York, Stark was chatting casually with Kingpin and Rodriguez. Since learning the art of creating clones, his days had been incredibly leisurely. He left everything to his clones and then relaxed with his family. While chatting, he heard a notification of a red envelope in the chat group, a hint of surprise on his face. Stark was bewildered. "Why is Master Lin sending me a red envelope? Today is Bai Ye's birthday. If anyone's going to send a red envelope, it should be to him." With this question in mind, he directly asked in the group, "Playboy, Master Lin, why did you suddenly send me a red envelope?" "Ghost Hunter, the red envelope contains my two good-for-nothing disciples. I want them to see the world." "Is that even possible?" Looking at the replies in the chat group, the other members were surprised, then thought it made sense. "Ghost Hunter, my disciples are unruly. To avoid them causing trouble, Mr. Stark, please don't release them yet." "Playboy, understood. I'll save the red envelopes for now and hand them over to the Taoist priest for discipline when I see him." Ghost catching Taoist. "Thank you, Mr. Stark." "Master Luo, Mr. Stark, I also have a favor to ask. Legendary Saiyan, I'd like to send a few friends over too." He, Gentleman's Sword, "Absolutely." Looking at the string of messages, Stark was speechless. What kind of shelf had he become? Of course, in the end, he didn't refuse and agreed in the group. Instantly, a massive amount of red envelopes were sent to him. Meanwhile, Lin Jiayu, who had refined his two disciples into red envelopes and sent them out, was preparing to go to the appointment. But at the door, there was a knocking sound. "Is Master Lin here? There's an urgent matter here." Getting up and walking towards the door, Lin Jiayu unlatched the door and pushed it open. He saw the steward of the town's wealthy old man, Master Ren, looking at him. "May I ask what urgent matter Steward Li has that you've come to see me in such a hurry?" Lin Jiayu asked in confusion. "Actually, it's related to old Master Ren. Our master wants to ask a master to choose an auspicious day for the reburial." Manager Li's face was humble. People in town used to call him Uncle Nine, but that was just a subconscious politeness, and no one took it seriously. But since he became wealthy, the address became more formal, and some even secretly called him Master Lin. Lin Jiayu frowned and said, Manager Li, I remember old Master Ren has been buried for over 10 years, hasn't he?" "This year marks exactly 20 years, Manager Li replied. "Since the burial has already taken place, why move the grave again?" "Well, when you see my master, he will explain in detail." He's in town right now." Before Steward Lee could finish, Lin Jiayu stopped him with a raised hand. "Steward, I already have an appointment today and can't get away. How about we talk another day?" Steward Lee hesitated for a moment, then Lin Jiayu made the final decision. "In that case, it's settled. Noon 3 days from now is an auspicious day. I'll go and take a look then." With that, Lin Jiayu slammed the heavy door shut and accepted the invitation. In the special shift, Bai Ye, unchanged from before, was chatting with Yu Buquan and the others who had already arrived. "Hey, Taoist Lin is here." Yu Buquan greeted Lin Jiayu with a wave of his hand. "Calling me Taoist is too formal. Brother Yu is my peer, just call us by our names." Lin Jiayu waved his hand. As they spoke, the two saw Stark approaching from a distance and asked, "Everyone, shall we release your friends and family now?" "Thank you for your trouble, Mr. Stark," Lin Jiayu said, bowing. His two disciples then jumped out from beside Stark. Bulma, Yamcha, and others followed suit, emerging from the red envelopes one by one. "Happy birthday, Mr. Bai," Kamishima Kana waved and greeted them as she arrived. Bai Ye waved back, seeing that almost everyone had arrived, and said, "Please take your seats, everything has been arranged." Meanwhile, throughout the entire galaxy outside, a grand banquet was being held to celebrate this day. Whatever food was desired was materialized from the menu using the reality stone, and then teleported to the table by the space stone. To supply all life in the galaxy, trillions of tons of food were materialized every second, consuming at least a mass of stars in a single day. As Bai Ye's home planet, the birthplace of the entire White Empire, it naturally became the focus of the entire universe. Almost every inhabited planet was broadcasting footage of the regional birthday celebrations. To highlight the Empire's egalitarianism and democracy, Earthlings couldn't be the only ones basking in the Emperor's favor. 2 lucky guests were randomly selected from each of the other planets to come to Earth and celebrate with the Emperor. After Bai Ye ushered everyone to their seats, Lin Jiayu and his companions were approached by the etiquette officer to inquire whether they wished to change their clothes and groom themselves. Lin Jiayu politely declined, but glancing at his 2 apprentices' clothes, which were originally decent but now look somewhat shabby in this environment, he told them to go and change. Before they left, he specifically instructed them not to cause trouble. But even without his instruction, the 2, who were originally quite lively, completely restrained themselves and behaved extremely obediently when they saw the grand scene around them, especially the aliens who were even more bizarre than zombies passing by. Meanwhile, in the Milky Way, Captain Marvel, who had finally returned from Andromeda after a month of arduous travel, was dumbfounded as she looked at the planetary inhabitants flying the flags of the White Earth. "What's going on? We've only been gone a few years, and the galaxy is already under our control." Captain Marvel was utterly shocked, and her appearance immediately attracted the attention of the Earth's garrison on this planet. "Where did you come from? Don't you know that during Christmas, the entire White Empire's territory is under a no-fly zone?" a soldier questioned, looking at Captain Marvel overhead. "Christmas? The White Empire? Which remote planet are you from? Don't you know that the entire galaxy is now under the control of the Earth's White Empire?" the garrison demanded. Seeing the garrison's incessant chatter and readiness to attack, Captain Marvel lowered her eyes, and after a moment of silence, suddenly struck. "Capture her first, then worry about the consequences." Boom! In an instant, boundless energy surged from her body, and blinding light burst forth from her skin, like an exploding supernova. The immense energy propelled her body into a streak of light, instantly piercing through the air and slamming into the garrison before plummeting towards the ground. Amidst the billowing dust, a man with astonished eyes flashed with divine light as he coldly gripped a guard's neck and demanded, "Tell me what the White Empire is, and what your relationship is with Earth." End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.